All right, y'all gentlemen, all right?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Man, I'm definitely excited about tonight's show. Let's see what the chat so you them hats fire. Definitely. Okay, that's what's up. All right, so let's start right away with I mentioned COVID-19 and like I said, that changed the entire world. And the thing about melanin is that oftentimes when we hear about things happening to us on the news, we don't know what to believe because of the history of this country. So when they talk about melanated people being, being more susceptible, if that's the word, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, to COVID-19, we don't know whether it's disinformation, whether it's true. We don't know what to believe. And we always feel as though there's a conspiracy against us. So one of the things that have been talked about throughout the years is that our production of melanin is one of the reasons that we're envied. Some people look at it as just something that color that has to do with your skin pigment, and a lot of our teachers say no, it's much more than that. It's way more than that. And sometimes it's a sensitive subject because people feel as though there's a level of racism involved or discrimination involved or whatever word you hatred involved when you talk about melanin. And so because of that, we don't get a lot of talk on melanin. A lot of scholars that we grew up listening to, they wouldn't dare mention melanin. They could talk about the most advanced shit in the universe, but they wouldn't dare even utter the word melanin. So that's what we're here for. We're trying to figure out who we are. Know thyself is something that's important that they talked about in ancient Kemet. And understanding melanin is understanding ourselves. So this type of conversation is important. It's been talked about for years, but I want some updated information, and I want it to pertain to 2020. So that's why I want to start out with the talk on COVID. What impact? Talk to me, family, about COVID-19 and melanin, and is there some type of connection between melanin and what's going on with COVID? There was a report just talked about. KT mentioned that 80% of the patients in Spain that had COVID suffered from vitamin D deficiency. So I'll just leave it there. But besides that, let's talk about melanin and COVID-19 and how are the melanated people supposed to respond? Are we supposed to respond differently? But talk to me about melanin and COVID-19 or corona virus.
Yeah, I mean, COVID is just code for telling us to get our ass back in that sun again. The only way that COVID affects us at all is if we're outside of the environment that we're supposed to be in. The reason why they said over 80% of people that they're quote unquote saying have COVID is vitamin D deficient is because vitamin D is based upon the exposure to yourself in sunlight. When the sun hits your skin, the subcutaneous fat contains cholesterol that gets converted into vitamin D. So it's technically a hormone based on your conversation and your relationship with the sun. But when you're living in regions in the latitudes where ultraviolet B radiation does not exist to catalyze that particular reaction, you're going to start suffering from that deficiency. And suffering from that deficiency couples with viral infection symptoms. It's the same thing. Why does flu symptoms come around the same type of year in the fall? Why do they always come during the Atum Ray part of the cycle? Because that's the part of the year where the sun rays start to diminish, where the northern latitudes don't have ultraviolet B energy anymore. And based upon that ultraviolet B energy lacking, what you're going to end up having in that deficiency is the rise of the susceptibility to all types of compromise into your immune system. Now, how does melanin play the role? Well, we have to stay in the sun a lot longer than people that are lighter skinned or Caucasian, way longer. Some might see that as a setback, but not really. It's just that we are designed to be outside. When you think about our community, what do? We do family reunions, we do barbecues, we like being outside, turning on the fire hydrants, sprinklers, chasing ice cream trucks, right? Sitting out on the corner, on the stoop. Everything we do is what? The street, the block. That's just another way of saying outside. So when you take a culture that's used to being grounded in their environment and placing them in a box with frequencies, ultraviolet radiation, so to speak, shielding them, so to speak, from or cutting them off from their source energy, then it's going to compromise that miraculous living carbon that we know as melanin, and it becomes a hindrance more than a blessing.
Right. So I want to ask a question though. So could there be a future where we might have to go without a sun? And then this could be a preparation period?
I mean, there's always a solar cycle in which it increases and it drops down. And honestly, the sun that we see, is really a black sun. You know what I'm saying? So there's never going to be a time that we're going to go without a sun, because there's endless stars that exist in the sky. There's always going to be some type of cosmic light that we're going to be communicating with. But if we're talking about our current cycle, because that's what we're talking about right now.
Y'all stole one of my questions.
There we go, the black sun.
Y'all stole one of my questions.
You know what I'm saying? Go ahead. COVID is something going on right now. The sun exists right now. Us being shielded inside, put indoors, is nothing but THX 1138. You know what I'm saying? With they putting us underground, trying to cut us off from the resource, the chemtrails, the aluminum, trying to reflect the energy. This is all to try and cut people off from a free energy source, a divine energy source. And the truth being that the sun is truly within, and we're connecting to something that's within us, you know?
Black sun. Now the question is, do you believe we descend from a space traveling civilization, that we've traveled the stars, space?
I mean, are you saying if the earth is the beginning of our story? I would say no, the earth is not the beginning of our story.
Okay. So then there had to be a time that we had
chapter.
to, so then there had to be a time we had to travel outside of our current sun.
Right. But wherever we traveled from, we always had some type of source energy. So
but how do we find that source if we rely on the sun that we're currently dealing with right now?
Well, you have to crawl before you walk. So it's like you can't talk about being superfly galactic if you can't just deal with the basic principles that exist here and now. Right. And the here and now existence is water, air, fire, ether, light, water, magnetism. Can you stay consistent with the commitments that you made to be here and now? We always want to be so fucking fly.
I agree. So could melanin be a part of that consistency? And that's just where I'm trying to get to. Because I agree with everything you're saying. I'm just trying to bring it back to, could that melanin then be a part of our connection to the elements, to the fire, earth, air?
Oh, most definitely. But like I said, you gotta crawl before you walk. So
I agree.
Before you get cosmically astute, you have to be able to ground and connect with what you have right now. Before you start eating 8-course meals, you got to suck on a titty.
Right.
So if you ain't never sucked on a titty before, you're going to be real angry as an adult.
So then could COVID-19 weed out those who can't handle the titty milk? Because not everyone, some people can't handle that. I know babies that can't handle the milk from the mother and have to do this artificial stuff.
I was always taught by a brother named Amir to always stick to the one. And the one is not COVID-19. The one is coronavirus. COVID-19 was something we were served later. Coronavirus was what it started off with. The first word in there is corona, which deals with aura, deals with sun, coronal mass ejection, light. Even its look represents sunlight. So what is this? This is a virus based on those that refuse to expose themselves to sunlight, thus becoming those same little gremlins that we saw in I Am Legend, huddling together, shaking in the dark, eating a bunch of flesh, pale as hell, wondering what we're going to do next.
Q, won't you answer the question, and then we'll move on to let everybody else answer the question, since you interjected with KT. Go ahead. You could go next, my brother.
Can you just ask the question one more time so I can bring it to service?
Like I said, since Corona and COVID is such an important topic, and the news have been saying the whole year that Black people seem to get Corona at a higher rate than everybody else. I just wanted to talk about the connection between this what they're calling coronavirus and melanin, if there's any connection at all, if there's misinformation, and if there's anything we should know, because we're obviously not going to be told in mainstream media. So that's what I have y'all here for.
For sure. So I definitely agree with, I think, KT, where he is explaining how corona is symbolic for a sun, an aura, an emission, a quasar. There's many different terms that could represent this information, but certain people are accessing information, and those beings that are accessing this information are being attacked based on them having this information. Now, of course, corona means sun, so then the sun people would be those that are being attacked. Now, it doesn't surprise me that they say Black people are susceptible to COVID-19. Black people, in essence, are considered a threat to civilization based on their high reproduction rate. So just based on them being able to reproduce melanin or exchange this sentient substance from egg to egg, it is a threat. So I believe that they're going to create any information over the next 10 years that's going to symbolize us placing the idea that we're being attacked and that we are less than. You consider yourself less than if you're more susceptible to a virus. These are subconscious programs. But I just think they're just trying to subconsciously program a corona people, a sun people, and then also keep us in the past. That's why they attached the 19 to it, because we clearly in 2020. So why are we worrying about 19? But that's another code too, I personally believe, to keep some of us not in this new shift or change that's to come, but to keep us in the old ways, even though them old ways clearly didn't benefit us. That's why we were enslaved and going through the issues we were going through in the first place.
Yeah.
I want to interject real quick.
Yeah, go ahead, brother.
So we got to remember too that the sun is our generator, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's responsible for delivering the information to us. So, we come out the black hole with a womb, being crowned head first. We sit on the mother's chest or the throne and receive the breast milk or the galactose. You see what I'm saying? So you got to look at this situation too as, you got to be able to see the unseen behind the scene. So, you're dealing with words, you're dealing with wordplay, you're dealing with corona. Again, corona is the crown. 2020 again is our jubilee, right? So, they throw out, little key words and terms, but also the coronavirus too is to interject, our mythos, is to interject the process of the melanated body, receiving the information and the codes in order to know how to maneuver through this reality, because again, you see, we are being used as harmonic gyroscopes,
What's a gyroscope for somebody who doesn't know?
A gyroscope basically is an instrument, right, that is being used to synchronize sound. So we in the process are being delivered information via our melanin to be able to synchronize what's being brought to us via the sun, but even beyond the sun. We're talking about the galactic core, right? So, as long as we continue to maneuver through this reality and this year, with a sense of purpose, I think, the coronavirus will be a thing where we can kind of decipher, break down, and understand what the real meaning behind it is.
That part. Melanin is a technology, you know what I'm saying? So 2020 being that particular year when we all get initiated, right, by this cosmic canopy that is now bringing the light from the galactic center, right? AA told us during 2012 that the light from the galactic center takes 4.4 years to get here. There's all of these parallels now with 2012 and 2020. So 6 years after that galactic light got here in 2016, now we see this particular cycle. Last year, at the end of the conference that KT and you did in December, and then we opened up for Billy Carson in November, we ended off speaking about vitamin D deficiency and how that was going to drastically impact melanated people in particular. Now, when I started my Corona Rising conversation, this was about everything that everyone on the panel is speaking about. there's an internal sun inside of you that is awakening, connecting with the external sun by way of solar winds and coronal mass ejections. And, you know, they're not gonna, you know what I'm saying? Like your adversarial forces that are part of that mythos are not just gonna sit by and allow this upgrade to take place. You know what I mean? Everyone is seeing how can we play for this particular last play, this end game, if you will, like they told you in Avengers. So we see all of these things, all of these black mythos, all of these black motifs, you know what I'm saying, being enacted. You see all of these king motifs being enacted this particular year. All of this is speaking to what our melanin potentially has the potential to go through. What Bobby said, you know what I'm saying, 20 years ago, what Delbert has been speaking about, this is the culminate, what Alim has been speaking on, right? The fact that Betelgeuse is resonating all of this radiation and all of these things are impacting and affecting our technology. Who has the ability to come online and receive right now, as opposed to going into light code lockdown? Some people, you know what I mean, the majority, as we see, are not going to make the shift, because there's one hell of a shell game being played right now where people are making soul contracts. You know what I'm saying? They just taking themselves out of the game, you know? So it's a war that's being fought on multiple planes, as the book said, you know, about principalities, you know? So it directly impacts and deals with melanin as a technology and as a motif and representation of that Christ energy.
Indeed. Alim, you want to add on to that? Alim, I can't hear you, my brother. Your mic is muted. Do I have to unmute that? X2.
Here we go.
Okay, yeah.
All right. Before I even get started, there's books that I want to make mention of that everyone needs in their library. Number 1, Living, The Melanin Diet by Diane Menegel. Number 2, The Science of Melanin, Dispelling the Myths by Professor T. Owen Moore. Another one, Dark Matter, Dark Secrets by T. Owen Moore. All right. Another one, Why Darkness Matter, The Power of Melanin in the Brain. All right. And this one is by Edward Bruce Bynum, Dr. Ann Brown, T. Anthony Moore, and also Dr. Richard King. All right. Why Darkness Matters. All right. We need these in the library. All right. Melanin, What Makes Black People Black? Dr. Layla Africa. Alayhi salam upon him for passing this past year. Transitioning. African Origin of Biological Psychiatry by Dr. Richard King. Another one, Melanin, A Key to Freedom by Dr. Richard King. And probably the last one I can mention is Dark Light Consciousness. Melanin, Serpent Power, and the Luminous Matrix of Reality by Dr. Edward Bruce Bynum. And to say all that what we want to get into is the fact that, according to Dr. Jewel Pookrum, she states that melanin is biological living light. Biological living light. In some circles, it's referred to as the God particle. All right. Now, melanin, of course, is a chemical that is produced through the melanocytes, as we know. And you have 76 trillion cells in your body. So the melanocytes are part of the cellular structure in which that helps with the production of this chemical, melanin, which actually is merely carbon, the 6th element on the particle chart. All right, Bobby broke this down a long time ago, and it came from that same book that you just put up, The Black Sun of 666, 6 protons, 6 electrons, 6 neutrons. All right, so, it counteracts stress. It regulates your biological rhythm. It boosts memory. Even helps to synthesize what we call DMT, to intensify REM, or rapid eye movement, which is, during dream sleep. It organizes our system biologically, mentally, spiritually. It slows aging. This is why they say that black don't crack, as we get older. And it strengthens the immune system. But you have to make sure that it's cleansed. What cleanses melanin is vitamin B complex, in particular B6, B12, B2. All right. This is what cleanses melanin. This is something which that we have to focus on. Right. So yes, vitamin D is a deficiency in which that melanin people or melanated people are having, and this is what makes us susceptible to the so-called coronavirus or COVID-19. When you put into Google Translator the word COVID, we found out that it came back in the English translation of the word Kobe. So all this shit started with the alleged death of Kobe Bryant. All right, this is what we already did the research on. This is what I was breaking down with Brother Panic for damn near 10 hours. This is where this is coming from. When we also put into Google Translation the word COVID, and we did it in Yoruba, the name in which that came back was Ishuelegba, the trickster. All right. So we talking about a virus in which that even Trump at the earliest times was calling a hoax. All right. Allegedly, he got it a month ago. Him, his wife, and others that was part of the Senate. All right. This is something in which that becomes a matter of speculation, conspiracy, etc., etc. I'm not going to deal with that, but what I want to deal with is the number 19 and why the number 19 was used. Allegedly, it was used because it was 2019 when it was released in Wuhan, China. But we know that it was being manufactured there at the behest of the United States government. All right. Those in which that was actually funding it are the same ones in which that is trying to get everyone to take a vaccine now, in particular the States. All right. As well as also George Soros. All right. Warren Buffett is part of that because he said that he would dedicate all of his monies to the foundation of Bill Gates and Melinda Gates. All right. So we're talking about something in which that when we get to the number 19, we know that if we take a tetrahedron and you impose that over the physical body at 19 degrees, you'll see an upswelling of energy. Whether it's at the south, which is where we would actually put your sacral bone location, which is at the base of your spine, right above the caucus. It is there where the Kundalini energy dwells. And so it is there that we find an upswelling of energy at 19 degrees. That's south. Once the Kundalini hits and awaken and raise up the 33 vertebrates and becomes embedded inside of the pineal gland, and the Kundalini and the divine soul merges to produce the divine marriage of heaven, which we call the Osarian and the Orsetian play. The Kundalini is Orset, all right, from the Kemetic script. And then the soul symbolizes Orsar, the Lord of the perfect black. When the two combine, they produce Heru, or what is called Christ consciousness, as is stated by Brother Blue Pill just a few moments ago. So at that point, we're looking at another upswelling of energy at 19 degrees, but now it's 19 degrees north, right? 19 degrees north. That is symbolic to, of course, to the North Pole, all right? So that is talking about exactly the North Pole, Polaris. Panic did a recent video in which that he was talking about death, and he put within there several books in which that was mentioned. He made mention of the book. Matter of fact, these books right here, the ISIS Thesis and the Balls of Fire. All right, both of these books is by Judy K. King, and she speaks about in there about the North Pole or Polaris. All right, or as we call it, the North Star, Polaris. All of that is connected, but at that point we know that when the Kundalini, the Ascension energy, the Mother Goddess principle, strikes the Father principle, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, it produces that kingdom, which is talking about that corona around the head, or we call it the halo. The word halo and the word helios both mean within Greek and Latin or Roman, the word light. It also refers to as, taken back to ancient Kemet, the word haru or heru, halo and heru. The word H-A-L-O is H-A-R-O, heru or hero, all right, H-E-R-O. The L's and the R's are interchangeable. So we're looking at the number 19. So remember, when they told us, what does the virus attack? The virus attacks the genitalia, the heart, as well as also the head area. These three areas happen to be the areas in which that when you practice Qigong, Tai Chi, or other martial arts such as Aikido, and you actually do the meditations, you are attempting to bring light into your body and store it in those particular locations. All right? About 1 inch to 2 inches below the navel, right above the genitalia, that area, right at the heart, in particular the back of the heart, and right at the third eye, all right, or the medulla oblongata coming from the back. These are the storage places for electromagnetic energy, or what is also referred to as chi, or ki, or mana, or kahuna mana as it's called within Hawaii. It is also called prana, all right? So this is a universal life force energy in which that we are bringing into us. Some refer to it as astral energy or astral light. The more astral light that we can absorb, the more we are able to light up like a Christmas tree, all right? Because once again, we have the God particle, all right? That is melanin, all right? We know that there's 3 types of melanin, the eumelanin, the phenomelanin, and the neuromelanin, all right? The neuromelanin, of course, is melanin that's found in the brain and the nervous system. And it comprises either or the phenomelanin or the eumelanin. Now, the most common is eumelanin, all right? Of which there's 2 types, is brown and black, as they would say, all right? We would just say dark brown, all right? This is the carbon element, all right? We know on the periodical chart, there is no such thing as melanin. It's carbon, all right? And so like we said, that's biological living light. Carbon is biological living light, all right? So that means that there's consciousness to it, all right? Dr. Frank Barr, he said something about melanin. He called it, in his works, he said melanin, the organizing molecule, all right? And he basically have a hypothesis in which that states that melanin is held capable of regulating a wide range of molecular interactions and metabolic processes. He says also that that melanin is a pigment molecule, but it is able to absorb a wide range of frequencies. All right. Everything from TV waves, radio waves, infrared waves, microwaves, to visible light spectrum, to UV rays, cosmic rays, gamma rays. All right. Melanin is able to absorb all those light spectrums. And the people who are able to do it are called the sun people. All right. Melanated people are able to do this. All right. We find that a lack of melanin is directly related to the malfunctioning of the central nervous system. Melanin forms a network between all the spiritual material planes of the cosmos. Now, this is by Joseph A. Bailey, a MD. All right, he told us this. All right, if you get the book Melanin, the Chemical Key to Black Greatness, he says this is Carol Barnes, and Carol Barnes says that melanin gives humans the ability to feel because it is the absorber of all frequencies of energy. Dr. Francis Quest Welson writes that since melanin is a superior absorber of all energies, it is essentially the to establish this understanding of God in all energy. The fact that the albino or the white lacks melanin may also help to explain why the view of many non-white people that whites lack spirituality and lack the capacity to tune into and thereby to establish harmony and justice. They can't establish harmony and justice because of the lack of the feeling, because that is the soul. Melanin is the physical counterpart to the spiritual soul. All right. I'm going to say that again. Melanin is the physical counterpart to the spiritual soul. All right. Melanin is made of also of selenium. It's enriched, right? Selenium enriched. The pale skin individuals, theirs is made from sulfur, a variant type of sulfur type of melanin, right?
Found on the moon.
Right, that is the lunar or the phenotype of them is that phenomelanin, all right? That is made from sulfur, all right? Where ours is made from selenium. You know, we're selenium on base, while the albion skin is sulfur. You know, so this shows us the difference between phenomelanin and eumelanin. You know, that is one of these issues. Now, selenium is a type of yeast, as they refer to it as. Melanin, this is why melanin is able to be produced through the Pacific melanocytes, because it's like a yeast, all right? I guess you can say chemical, or, you know, and this is what gives us this ability to tune in, you know, is the fact that light is absorbed by way of your melanin. This is why I guess you can say the Bible states that the light shineth in the darkness and the darkness comprehended it not. You know, the darkness symbolizes the melanin and the light shineth in the darkness, you know. So this is, when we go and do research on the melanocytes, we find that the melanocytes have the ability in order to absorb the light from the cosmos, whether it's sunlight, whether it's Betelgeuse, or whether it's the core of the sun, called Alcyon, wherever light is coming from, melanated people have the ability in order to absorb it. Melanocytes has black hole properties, all right? It has black hole properties, so we're able to absorb it much better than anyone else on planet Earth. And this is why we are despised around the world, because we are the God people with the God particle.
You know, well, before I get into the next question, I appreciate everybody for answering that first question. Yeah, family, ignore the chat. Yeah, obviously there's some bots in the chat room. I done got rid of like over 30 people already. And it's obviously bots. They're saying the same thing. Alim Bey fought it, Dash, Brother Red Pill. So it's obviously some bots. Obviously somebody, whatever with the program we're doing tonight is annoyed or doesn't like it. So the people don't pay attention to the chat. If you're really listening to these gentlemen, the chat shouldn't even be important to you. So just ignore the chat. Pay attention to what Alim Bey is saying. That shows who's paying attention and who's not. Just pay attention to the dialogue. Obviously, I done got rid of over 30 people. Sci-Fi done muted 20 people. It's bots at this. There's somebody or YouTube or whoever. So don't pay attention to that. Let's continue with the dialogue. I'll take care of what I got to take care in the chat, but don't pay attention to that. Pay attention to what's going on with the discussion in the conference tonight. What I want to talk about next is that one thing Bobby talked about is that melanin and the melanated people, he referred to it as chaos. And he would talk about how melanin and chaos is before the realm of creation. It's before what we call the known universe that we're in today, that we say, I am one with the universe. I am a reflection of the universe. Bobby's like, nah, we come before this shit. We come before the gods that we worship, or before the sun, moon, and the stars. We're before all of this. So when we talk about, who's controlling the world and there's 100 families, the Illuminati, I say to myself, there's got to be something bigger than that. Are we at war? Say if we're pre-creation deities, pre-creation entities, are we at war with our own children? If we had with the children of this universe, or I think the Nag Hammadi, the Gnostic text called it. What's the word they use, Blue? Al-Daldibra, or what's that word?
Al-Daldibra.
Right. So are we at war? Because when we look at white people and we're like, white people hate us, white supremacy, that word has been used so much this year. But when we talk about melanin, does it go beyond what we call white supremacy? Is this some pre-creation versus the creation deities type of beef going on, way beyond what we look at as white supremacy?
Can I chime in?
You was ancient. Go ahead. You ancient. Go ahead. You start.
I'm gonna be quick. My bad. I'm gonna be quick.
Yeah.
So this is kind of the idea of like primordial and immortal. You have a mortal and you have a pre-mortal. Now, this could be no different than civilized and uncivilized or chaotic. Now, you would consider the mortal civilized. What makes him civilized is him being able to not get lost within himself, which is then you need a tool or system you can call time. So the civilized man has used the system or the tool of time to kind of control an existence or a chaos, kind of put chaos on a grid and put markers in between so it even gets lost to itself. It doesn't even know it's chaos. But like, I believe that melanin is associated to a primordial chaos, meaning that you can't put us in a time frame. You can't put us in a box or a grid. And that right there is very difficult to a society that means structure and order. And I want to let others speak, but that's just my point with it, that we come from pre-structure. We come from, we are wolves, not dogs. Like we have not submitted and sacrificed ourselves for a man. Like we're still indigenous, we're still of the land, we still have those capabilities, and that is the war. And then it's no different if you believe that the Caucasian race is descendants of the melanated race, well, then they would technically be our children. So we're at war with ourselves. So then that becomes the battle. You're at war with your children, but your children are you. So you're really at war with yourself. And then I then try to bring it to mythology, and I'm like, imagine a dragon that's kind of at war with its tail. That's like a serpent. And it's the serpent.
What do they call that? The dragon eating its tail. What's
Ouroboros.
Ouroboros.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So you have some that come of the dragon and some that come of the serpent. There's a difference. But I believe that melanin is more associated to the dragon than of what you would refer to as a serpent.
Can we share screens, Rich?
Yes. Oh no. I'm sorry. Let me give me a second, KT. All right, go ahead, my brother. You should be good. You heard me, KT?
Yep, I'm doing it right now.
Okay.
Can you see it?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I'm glad you brought up Ouroboros, brother, because I definitely was going to touch on that. This would be an example of what the brother was talking about, as opposed to it being a dragon more than a serpent. The reason why the Ouroboros is very important in regards to the topic that we're speaking on tonight is because when we talk about melanin, we're talking about carbon. This is why Sabi was like, there is no melanin. And it wasn't to discount all of the doctrine and the texts and the study and the research and the information that came before. It was just like any other griot. They want you to get the basic concept of a thing before you get mad, flashy, and flossy with it. If you get flashy and flossy with it, you're going to miss the boat. So he was like, it ain't melanin, it's carbon. And when you get a better understanding of that, then what you're going to end up doing is you're going to end up looking at the atom of carbon. When you look at the atom of carbon, you're going to look at one of its basic structures called a benzene ring. And a benzene ring is known as an aromatic ring, right? Because what ends up happening is when they line up like that, they end up creating something called a ring current. This ring current is the Ouroboros. This is what exists over all of the carbon aromatic rings that make up the tyrosine, that makes up the melanin, that makes up the tryptophan, that makes up the melatonin, that makes up all of the aromatic rings that make up the amino acids, that make up the proteins, that make up your body. So when you have benzene rings and they make the six-sided figure, the hexagonal shape that you see right here, when you look at it from a planar point of view, meaning from the bird's eye view or looking at it like a tabletop, you see that blue circle on top and the blue circle underneath the plane, both of them rotating in different directions, inducing a magnetic field. Now, this is just 6 carbons making an aromatic ring. You're talking a protein that has thousands and millions of these things, right? So when you have this benzene ring, this aromatic ring, it becomes something called a photon trap. And a photon trap, I always tell people, just think of Ghostbusters. When they would be trying to catch a ghost, they would throw the little trap underneath the ghost and hit the pedal and open up and suck them in. You suck in light. But when you suck that light on in, what happens is you end up converting, you step down high frequency beams, high cosmic energy into more feasible energy that you can use, like a step down transformer outside your house. You're not going to take the live wires that exist outside your house and use it to plug in your iron. So that's what melanin assists in doing. It helps to chop down that high gamma energy into infrared, into blue, into green, into red, into yellow, into orange, so that it can communicate and drive the system into where it needs to go. Now, it's real interesting with the brother was talking about, Alim Bey was just talking about a moment ago. He brought up Judy K. King. Now, you cannot bring up that book and just brush over that, because people don't know about that book. And the most dynamic aspect of that book is the fact that they took over 800 texts of Kemetic antiquity. And what she did, Judy K. King, is she translated that text into microbiology. So you can't leave that out. What she said, what the summation of that storyline, and I'll bring up why Polaris and everything was so important, but the summation of that storyline was that the ancient Kemetic text that we read or that we privy of is all about a formula, so to speak. It's about microbiology. It's about Ant-Man going into the nano world and creating proteins and enzymes. That's what's going on inside the Kemetic lore. So when you're talking about Set, and you're talking about Asor, and you're talking about Set, and you're talking about Heru, you're talking about DNA, you're talking about what you call it, polymerase and transcription and creating new proteins and building. Because think about it. We all talk about masonry and building our temples, right? Okay, so who's the greatest mason? You are. Why? Because you're creating this divine temple. You constantly make this divine temple through what? Through an organizer. What is the organizer? The melanin is the organizer. Why is the melanin the organizer? Because it has these amazing functions that we're not privy to. And the main function that melanin has the ability to do is it has the ability to associate and dissociate water. Why is that important? Because no matter what corner of the universe it is, whether it's a black sun, purple sun, orange sun, green sun, they looking for water to find life. So water is all about life. So if you have a structure that has the ability to split and recombine water, which is a process that takes 2000 degrees Celsius to do in a lab, and you do it while you walking down the street, no problem. Oh yeah, you definitely got some miraculous technology inside of your body. So what ends up happening is the melanin splits water and it reassembles the water. And in the process of doing that, produces plasma and 4 high energy electrons in that process. This process happens inside the cell. This is a chart of the process happening. If you look at these cells, there's a bubble right here. And if you notice, the bubble gets bigger. This is the hydrogen gas that is getting created, the plasma that grows and grows and grows within inside the cell. It keeps getting bigger and bigger until it does what? Till it takes up the whole entire cell. Now imagine you being made up of trillions and trillions of cells. And this hydrogen gas, remember it's a gas now, which means you don't have to worry about membranes. You don't have to worry about active transport. You don't have to worry about semi-permeable membranes. No, this thing is going to permeate throughout your whole system without any energy necessary, any energy taken, like the swelling of any gas that takes place. And what does hydrogen gas do? The lightest molecule that exists in the whole universe, the H2, oh, well, it's going to fuel the entire body by way of water. Water is your battery, sun is the generator, the hydrogen gas is permeated throughout your system based on the melanin intelligence that disassociates and reassociates water.
KT, the question was, being that Bobby Hemmett talked about melanin being chaos energy and it being pre-creation.
Right. And that's what I'm saying right now, because when you say chaos, you're talking about entropy. Okay, you're talking about entropy. If anybody want to get a good idea of what entropy means, go watch the movie Tenet, and you'll get a real good understanding of the concept of entropy versus order. If I walk up to a mirror and I break it and it turns into 100 shards of glass on the ground, you know what I mean? I have to reverse entropy in order for that glass to reform back into a plane of mirror again with no cracks in it no more. So melanin is the divine organizer. Melanin is the, is the
I understand that, KT. But what I'm saying is that if it's beyond white supremacy, and I get what you're saying, if it's beyond white supremacy, and we're talking, and you're making it like a biology thing, and you're talking about the book Isis Thesis. You know, and one thing that's interesting that what you talked about that Dr. Africa said is that colored foods are good for you and white foods is bad for you. So if this realm is a projected shadow realm of what's going on inside of us, what we see as the non-melanated people, are they representative of the sugar and the white substances and toxins that we ingest in our body, and it's projected outward as what we call white people? Is that what you're saying? Because I'm trying to figure out, I'm trying to go beyond white supremacy. So
no, I'm not even talking about white supremacy, because I don't even, matter of fact, I don't even deal with that narrative or that doctrine in the first place. You know what I mean? Right now, like the conversation tonight is about is people getting a better understanding of what melanin is. And melanin doesn't have anything to do with white supremacy, because that's an oxymoron to use that in the same statement.
Right. Okay. All right. I got you, brother.
Now, just to be clear, white supremacists have melanin too, or they would not exist here. They have neuromelanin. They have melanin inside of their organs. So we all have melanin. That's why we are colored. That's why we have pigments. That's why we're able to deal with this realm right here. Melanin is that gateway. Think about a woman who's pregnant and that belly starts getting swole. She got a black stripe going down the center of it. when you give birth to a child, when I gave birth to my daughter and I gave birth to that placenta, the placenta has black pearls sitting underside the membrane of that tree of life. So melanin exists within all of life. You look in Prometheus, he had to drink on that melanin in order to break his system down to what's the word I'm looking for? To catalyze the reaction in the water to give life to the world, to create quote unquote man at the beginning of that movie. But I'm talking about biology because biology literally translates into the study of life. So that's what we're talking about right now. We're talking about life. So of course I'm going to get into the biological representation because we can talk about the metaphysics of melanin all day, but the listener wants to know, how does melanin relate to me? What does it do for me? What can I walk away with today? How can I utilize this information? You see? So that's why I'm bringing up the information of this hydrogen gas, because when we look in the universe, what is the most prominent element that exists on it everywhere? It's going to be hydrogen. What is the most simplistic and lightest molecule that exists throughout all of the universe? Hydrogen gas. And I'm here telling you that the melanin that exists in your body creates hydrogen gas from water, which is the future of energy on this planet. You do it as we talking right now. Now, the Judy K. King book, the Polaris connection was the fact that they were saying that Osiris is essentially a bacteriophage virus. You want to talk about coronavirus? They say a saw is a virus. And the whole goal of afterlife is putting your DNA in a lambda bacteriophage and angling it so that it's able to exit the one exit point that exists on this planet. And that is this hole in the magnetic field that is near Polaris, so it can escape and go where it needs to go as it ascends. This is what she's talking about.
That's why you're stuck here. Yeah, you trapped here until you can exit out of Polaris.
Anybody else want to add on?
Yeah, KT, I wanted to add to, and I'm glad you brought up entropy, right? Because we're talking about chaos, we're talking about space. You got all these stories coming out relative to black holes, right?
Right.
So the opposite of entropy is neg entropy. It's self-organization, self-similarity, right? So I believe it was the Zora where they mentioned in Genesis about a ring. So I always talk about this in the sense of you have an omnipresent source or nothingness at the beginning, right? There's nothing outside of infinity. So topologically, the only direction you can go is inward. So if you can think of a fluid, right? A fluid, you can think of plasma falling in on itself. It'll fall in on itself to a point, but rotate back out where you got self-sustainability. And this is what KT was talking about with the hydrogen being the future for energy. And this is why they're getting into the nuclear fusion so much. Now, again, when you look at black holes, you're looking at the macrocosm. So when you look at space, you're looking at entropy. When you look at black holes, you see intelligence, because what you're seeing is charge coming together cohesively, or waves coming together cohesively, right? Transverse waves coming together cohesively, called constructive wave interference. And when you have waves coming together collectively, you have self-similarity, you have intelligence. So as these waves or this charge begins to come together or spiral, it collects inertia. But not only that, it spirals in and it's adding and multiplying its velocity and its wavelength to a point, which is the Planck dimension. Okay. And this is what they're struggling about dark matter, because they can't pierce beyond the veil, right? Beyond the beyond the Planck dimension is the dark matter. Right. Okay. So in the beginning, like they mentioned in the Torah and Genesis, they mentioned the ring. So you got, again, the fact that they're getting into nuclear fusion, which is self-sustainability. You have the idea of black holes, which is actually intelligence. But you're looking at the topological view of a torus, right? And KT mentioned the benzene ring. The benzene ring sucks charge. Okay. It's the same thing, the melanated person. And again, this is why our people are always compassionate, you know, because you can't spell compassion out without spelling compass. You know, a compass regulates where the magnetic field is at.
Damn, brother. Okay. Damn, brother. Damn, brother. Okay.
So when you have compassion, right, you have infinite compression. You have infinite compression. Again, you have transverse waves, and it's called optimized translation of vorticity. You have transverse waves, and think of a vortex, right? I'm talking about a vortex. When you have waves coming together cohesively called neg entropy or self-organization, right? You have waves coming together, adding and multiplying their velocity and their wavelengths to a center point, which is the Planck dimension. So you go from a transverse wave to a longitudinal superluminal compressionable wave past the speed of light outside of the Planck dimension and back around, which is then going to generate the magnetic field of the torus. So when they're talking about self-sustainability, what they're trying to do is emulate the process of what they deem as God, right? Or again, like KT talked about, the benzene ring. The benzene ring can suck charge. Again, when our people have a level of compassion, it's no different when we're walking down the street, right? And we see somebody homeless sitting on the street. We feel a sense of compassion. That compassion is actually creating an electrical current in our heart. That electrical current actually generates or pulls the magnetic field back within the heart. It creates, again, a transverse wave going into basically waves come together, or charge coming together collectively, which is intelligence, imploding on the heart, which is then creating a specific sound. And this is based on a phi ratio, you know, the 1.618. So this is why, again, melanin is relegated to this specific wave mechanic, because, again, we tie directly into the universe. So when you see black holes, what you're actually seeing is what's happening on the quantum level in every black person in the universe, right? So we're dealing with, and I'm glad, KT, I'm glad Alim Bey brought up the book. And it's crazy because I just tagged Blue in this book about a month ago, the Judy King book. I'm about halfway through it, right? And she talks about the fact that, you know, when we are transcend, right, we meet Ra. Ra will take us through the dua, okay? And that's the black hole that we ascend back through to obtain a new body, a new plasma body. So when you see, again, black holes in the celestial realm, you're seeing what's actually happening on a quantum level. Now, what they're finding out too is that empty space is not actually empty. It's a fluctuation of information, infinite amount of information. And what they found out is that within a small cubic centimeter of space, you can fit the whole universe and even more within that space. So when you look at empty space, you see nothing but a fluctuation of information oscillating back and forth. And because melanated people are celestial beings and we come from the stars on high, they understand that we can oscillate at the same rate as this information is oscillating. So we can tap directly into this. And again, by following the specific ratio, dealing with wave mechanics. And when you love yourself, and this ties back into self-similarity, neg entropy, loving yourself, self-reflection. Again, you're talking about the ring, you're talking about self-sustainability. When you have the level of compassion and love for yourself, you manipulate the contraction of your heart, creating an implosion through the center towards the Planck dimension, rotates back out, generating the magnetic field. And the more you keep doing that, the magnetic field grows and it grows and it grows on top of one another, again, like a torus. And with that magnetic field, you have the capacity to pull in information. Again, like Alim Bey said, we have the capacity to interact with the whole spectrum, the whole light spectrum. So when, again, self-similarity, self-love, loving yourself, again, is going from a transverse wave to a longitudinal wave. Okay, you got charge compression to charge acceleration, and charge acceleration is actually gravity. So that's why when we throw something in the air, it comes down, because again, we exist in a fractal universe. And when you look at the pattern of fractality, you're looking at the phi ratio, and you're looking at infinite compression. So again, when they're dealing with nuclear reaction, they're trying to create a self-sustained situation where they can have energy, utilize it, but use it for free, right? free energy is what they're going for. So again, you're dealing with fusion, you're dealing with implosion, you're dealing with black holes, intelligence. And we have to couple all these scientific articles that are coming out and relegate it back to us, because again, what they're doing is studying the black body. And the ISIS thesis again deals with microbiology. So it's
Alkebulan.
internal. Yeah.
Yeah, just to touch on the question one more time. I don't want to lose focus of the question before Blue and Alim get on here. When you say they're studying the black body, the original question was if it's beyond white supremacy, what we call white supremacy. And I use that term for lack of a better words. We all know that there's nothing, but we're going to use that term so the masses can understand us. So if it's beyond white supremacy and we are pre-creation entities, where is this opposition coming from that our people feel as though there's always something holding us, there's always some type of conspiracy against the melanated people? So where exactly, if it's beyond white supremacy, where exactly is this coming from?
Us.
Can I just add on?
Q kind of said that, KT. Yeah.
Can I just add on, just touch on what the brother Alkebulan was saying and qualify what KT was speaking on a biological level? Because, and especially, with Q and Alim have been hitting on the fact that we are primordial, the fact that we are ancient, the fact that all of these things are being discovered and qualified by their scientists, which is their priesthood. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
They're saying, look, we don't have the technology, we don't have the time to go to the edges of the universe, right? We have discovered that there's a micro-macro relationship. We are going to, right, with the Genome Project and all of these other AI, artificial intelligence, quantum computing systems, we are going to study the God particle that is right amongst us. You know what I'm saying? And the more that they observe us, remember 2020 is all about observation. As Alkebulan can attest to, every single time we touch on a topic, they come up with a scientific research paper. I'm talking about to the T of what it is that we're speaking about in less than 24 hours. Now, how are they doing that? Right? And it's all speaking about observation at a subatomic level and beyond that, right? Where they're saying, oh, we just found the universe that's older than this universe, and all of these things that they're coming up with. All of that is based on the fact that melanin is in such a level of distress right now, you know what I'm saying, that they're able to observe it in a way in which they've never been able to observe it, because they have got it to coalesce itself by way of, the COVID drill. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's spooked, everybody's trapped. Melanin is behaving different. You know what I'm saying? They have been able to manipulate the whole faculty of this death ritual. The fact that we're speaking about, what these books are talking about in terms of, what the death ritual is, that's one thing. But think about the disruption to the death ritual this year alone. Think about how they've thrown melanin in flux by way of this collective fear that has encompassed the entire planet during a time, once again, when we should be receiving a whole different sort of cosmic intelligence for this upgrade. So it's like, it's a race to the finish almost. You know what I'm saying? Who's going to figure this thing out first? Are you going to wake up from the dream, or are they going to be able to decipher, you know what I'm saying, what's going on at level 3 in your mind while you're sleeping before you wake up? It's almost exactly like how they showed you in that movie, in Inception.
Yeah.
Right? Can we figure this shit out before they wake up and figure it out for themselves? So there's a observation right now of us at a molecular level with all of their technology and all of these machines and all of these modules and models and everything that's taking place that ties directly into saying, yes, it goes slightly beyond white supremacy is the shield for it. You know what I'm saying? That's the cover.
Right.
That's the thing that keeps you distracted. There's a scientific need and investigation for them to know at this particular point in time before we go into this period when they can no longer keep you away from the information. I mean, that's my assessment or observation of how I'm looking at the maneuvering that takes place, the things that go beyond, quote unquote, you know, the face of white supremacy. Like, what's going on behind the scenes? You know, what are these scientists really saying? You know what I'm saying? What's the communication that they're really having across the table while all of this distraction is taking place, right? They are making leaps and bounds, you know what I'm saying, with scientific research daily. Why weren't they, you know what I'm saying, quote unquote, all of this funding has gone towards COVID research? Why haven't these scientific research facilities been shut down because of COVID as well? How are they making all these breakthroughs? So,
okay. Alim, you want to finish off on that topic? Alim, I can't hear you, my brother. I don't know, his mic keeps getting muted.
Here we go.
Yeah, go ahead, brother.
I'll be muting it myself.
Okay. All
right, so let's look at it also like this. Elijah Muhammad said that our cream history is 76 trillion years. This universe is only about 15 to 20 billion years old. So what we do know is that mind exists because the all is mind and everything is mental. So at one time we had a collective hide mind in which that existed in a previous universe prior to this one. In fact, this is how this one was formed, was from that particular hive mind, in which that we projected ourselves over eons into various bodies in order to allow God to enjoy God's creation, all right, for the lack of a better terminology. So yes, that is the chaos that you're talking about, our cream history, which would be dark matter, black energy, or black matter, dark energy, all right? That, of course, is carbon, all right? Melanin, all right? So we know that in the third dimension, melanin acts as a semiconductor to transform energy. And you can get this from Dr. Tim Owen Moore in his book, The Science of Melanin, Dispelling the Myths. Another good book to get was The Ankh by Nur Ankh Amin. It's called African Origin of Electromagnetism. He says that melanin acts as a semiconductor, but at a third dimensional level, melanin has an energy gap. All right, so there's an energy gap, and most people don't know how to absorb energy, all right, in order to make the electrons jump into the conduction band and make melanin conductive, all right? The more that we can increase the conductivity, increases the sensitivity of melanin to the electromagnetic world of etheric beings, astral projections, and spiritual entities. All right, so this is what we understand, because melanin is the most important substance in the human body. So melanin actually is what we refer to as dark matter, black energy, or black energy, dark matter, depends on which way that you want to take it. All right, that is our composition in human form of the chaos. So yes, Bobby is correct that melanin is chaos because it is the embodiment of black matter, dark energy.
Indeed. One thing that is talked about side by side with COVID is global warming. One person, and we always keep mentioning his name, that connected global warming with melanin was Bobby Hemmett. So I had a talk with Blue Pill. We had a great series of interviews leading up to our Kundalini workshop. And one of the questions I asked him, I said, well, Bill Gates keep mentioning COVID. Then right after he mentioned COVID, he mentions global warming. And I keep hearing him mention COVID and then global warming. So I'm like, well, what's the connection? I know Bobby had a tape called Global Warming and Kundalini Rising. So I'm like, well, what's the connection between global warming and you know, melanated people? So I was watching Joe Rogan the other day with Alex Jones. Alex Jones was on there, and Alex Jones said that they was talking about carbon, like KT said. Dr. Sebi said he used the word carbon instead of melanin. Alex Jones was talking about, it reminded me of what Blue Pill's answer to my question was. Alex Jones said that they want to monitor all carbon. Then when the question was asked about global warming, he said they want to monitor all carbon, or some people say melanin, and control it as a toxic bad thing. Your carbon makes you bad. Now that, what he said, now it's, oh, you have a cold, so you're dirty with COVID. They want to track and tax you, so they're going to use COVID to cut the carbon or the melanin footprint. But he used the word carbon, but I'm using the word melanin, you know, for people, so people understand our talk tonight. So can we talk a little bit about global warming and melanin or carbon? Because that seems to be the next big thing after they get rid of COVID. They're going to go straight into global warming. And what's going on with global warming and melanin or carbon?
Oh, well, I know there's a few things that are going on. And there's always going to be a relationship between you and your environment. So there's going to be things going on with you, and there's going to be things going on in your immediate environment, and there's going to be things going on in the world at whole. When you're talking about the universe and the world at whole, you're talking about magnetic shifts, magnetic field shifts that are occurring. You're talking about different cycles that the sun is going in, right? Then you got your relationship with the sun and changes that are occurring in us. But the actual global warming that we're being like fed is really based on microwaves. Like the fact that the Wi-Fi, the blue light, the electrification, the fact that we have become cyborgs, so to speak. We have a appendage of a technology that we keep on our person all day, every day. When you're dealing with the population density of the cities, you're talking about millions and millions of people. So we have this perpetuation of this microwave that's going up into our atmosphere and is bouncing back down, and it's causing a heating up that is occurring. Now, there's a natural warming that's already occurring, but this is something that's increasing that process, making that process go a little faster. It's an artificial process that's occurring with that. So I know in terms of global warming in that respect, it has a lot to do with the microwaves being trapped and the world that we're living. This is why we're dealing with a speeding up of time, because with these waves, with this increase in this waves going on, we're actually observing time a lot differently than we used to. I know when I was coming up, shoot, a summer used to last, a week used to last, a month used to last. I mean, it don't matter if it's a day, a month, a week, or a year. That thing just zips right by. And even though 2020 have been one for the record books, I mean, we about to hit November in this thing.
You know, like a month. Yeah.
So time is definitely speeding up now. Obviously, consciousness is related to time interpretation as well. So as you become more conscious and more aware and more alert, and you observe, you know, things are going to move a lot quicker because you're going to see more. You know, you're going to think more, you're going to observe more, and things are going to move. But I'll leave my answer right there and let everybody else pick up. But I know in terms of the microwaves, that is what's contributing to the global warming. And of course, with the microwaves affecting all of us, the answer to them being able to lock down, shut down, martial law, and all of that is not killing anymore. It's not about running up into town, raping and pillaging. It's about morbidity. It's about morbidity. It's about keeping you sick. Because when you sick, you got a lot more control over somebody that's sick than somebody that's dead. You know, you got a lot of retaliation that comes back. But when you could make people lay down in the bed, when you can knock people out, it's a whole different situation.
Indeed. I'm going to be like Nori real quick before we move on. Can we give a hand for KT's glasses? Can we give a hand for KT's glasses? Oh, my God. Ladies and gentlemen, he's a black superhero. Oh, my God.
These ain't glasses.
Tell us what
These
they
are
are.
Alkebulan double black holes right here, bro.
Yo, tell me, brother. There you go. Alkebulan double black. Yo, we just had to give a hand for that, my brother. But go ahead. The next person could talk.
I wanted to add to that. Yeah, I wanted to add to that real quick. Delbert Blair talked about it. With the solar mass ejections, and them implementing the chemtrails as well. What's going to happen is, with the sun sending us its magnetic field, it's going to completely couple the earth with magnetism. And I always mention that this is really when they're going to start rolling out the technology, because they're going to use the magnetic ley lines in order to build out the aerodynamic cars to ride these lines. So not only is the level of control after 2020 going to increase with the technology, but again, they're using the chemtrails and they're talking about, global warming as the planet heating up. But in actuality, again, it's just an abundant amount of information coming from the sun that, melanated people are trivial to, and, when you think of magnetism, you think of information storage. So when you got a planet that's completely magnetic, who do you think is going to be trivial to that information?
The magnetic people, yeah.
So it's really a tall tale of an abundant amount of information coming through. And again, they got to utilize the chemtrails using the excuse that the planet is heating up, even though it is. But like KT said, it's in actuality microwaves. And again, it's a level of radiation. It's not necessarily about, it's about a biological warfare, but it's also a warfare on light itself. Okay. Because this is a light show. 2020 is a light show. Right. And the individuals with the melanin had the capacity to absorb the whole electromagnetic spectrum. Who are the ones that's going to be able to, relegate this reality beyond 2020? It's the melanated person. Neuromelanin is implicated in the capacity for consciousness to fold space, right? So when we have an increase in melanin and we have a situation where biologically we're speeding up, we're going through a quickening, we're oscillating. So when we're oscillating, that means we are resonating at a higher frequency. Thus, we have by nature or by default the capacity to activate by absorbing information from on high. So again, this is why they got to use the excuse for the global warming, is because they have to apply the chemtrails in order to block out the radiation that's coming through. Because again, when you look at the earth is a capacitor. And when you look at a capacitor, you have an insulator in the middle and you have two plates on the end, one positive, one negative. You can relegate that to the air, in ancient Kemet, who they refer to as Shu, right? The air, and then you got the ionosphere, which is positively charged, and then you got the earth, which is negatively charged. You got a capacitor. So when we live in a situation where we're dealing with electricity, not only that, when we're going outside and we're doing the sun gaze and we're doing we're grounding, putting our feet in the grass, we're charging up. So again, it's a light show, and they gotta, create a situation where they gotta block the information that's coming through.
That's all I'm saying, son. That's all I'm saying, son. That's what I'm talking about.
And as evidence for that, if anybody is in the South where I'm at, you can actually observe the fact that the trees are not browning. Now, this was my observation that started last year. The trees had not browned in the South all the way going into December, into January. You feel me? The browning that we're normally used to seeing leaves fall in the fall, that did not take place. I seen actual bees pollinating flowers like 3 weeks ago in a bush. You feel me? Like there's still bees out here. I mean, the shit, it's almost like, the seasons are somewhat thrown off, and I can only contribute it to the fact that the sun must be pumping out a different level of radiation. You know what I mean? And what these normal cycles that, this planet under the sun, that was a lot, that was weaker these past few years as opposed to right now when it's reawakened. we are in line for some cosmic downloads. They just put an article out today where they're funding a new scientific research, $3 million to, in essence, do the same thing that we've been seeing them do, which is just chemtrail. They say, look, we got to cool the planet down. We have the technology in place. You know, we're going to start spraying, you know, these chemicals in the atmosphere to refract the light and all of the stuff that we know that they've been doing. Now they're coming out and saying, this is our last ditch effort. We have to make this move now. So yeah, they're ushering it in along with the particular COVID conversation, you know.
Indeed. Yeah.
And yeah, and in essence, that's what it is. You know, when you come online and you heat up, what sort of radiation are you giving off? You know, what are the effects of that? You know what I mean? What is the thermal template of people that are taken to the streets by the 100,000s and marching for George Floyd? You don't think that they had, you know, thermal mappings and readings of that?
Right.
To show how that is heating things up. You know, there's this emphasis on things heating up. That's all they keep talking about. And if they're not talking about it with us, then they're talking about it with the voting in the rest of the country, or they're talking about it with the planet in its entirety. Then they're looking out west and saying, look, you know, this was the most unprecedented forest fires or burning season that they had out west. You know, there's a lot of things that are indicating, you know, the fact that things are definitely activating on this particular plane of existence. And by any and every attempt, people are being allowed to contract to take themselves out of that equation.
The polls are flipping, but we worried about going to the polls. You see what I'm saying?
Say that again. Hold up. No, man, hold up, bro. You said the polls are flipping, but we worried about going to the. Yeah, that's deep. That's deep. Damn, brother. Alim and Q, y'all want to add on to that? The global warming thing. Y'all can hear me? Alim, Q.
Yeah, he was talking. I mean,
I didn't hear him.
I would just mention Agenda 21, because if anyone has followed, you know, government conspiracy or government talk, you know, Alex Jones mentions Agenda 21 a lot. But basically, it is a one world government, a global utopia, and in order to usher in some of these matrix shifting paradigms, you have to create an event large enough to produce those mind-altering experiences. And of course, a world virus would be one of them. I mean, 9/11 would have been an example of that. But I never thought that they would do it so close to each other. But global warming would be another one of them. And that's not going to be it. It's going to be several other things. You know, we're still World War III. It's still a possibility right now. I mean, so all these things are just attacks on the mind. And those who are not strong enough to handle these mental attacks are getting weeded out right now. It's attack on the corona, attack on the crown. But I just feel it's been prophesized. It's been talked about in movies. I mean, it's not new for us. This is literally what we've been hearing and just and feeling for the last 20 years. So it's now just a matter of are we going to band together? Because that's another thing. Us melanated individuals have the tendency to repel each other for some odd reason. I thought water attracts water. So, you know, are we going to use this time to band together during quote unquote crisis? Or are we going to, you know, go our own ways? But this is why I'm a fan of something like tonight, you know, showing that exact ideology that we could come together and express, you know, our own beliefs and understandings and learn something, because I'm learning a lot tonight. Trust me.
Real quick, I just want to add to that really fast, Rich.
Yeah.
To be quite honest with you, I feel like World War III already happened. I think we at the end of World War III going to World War IV. And my theory is what World War IV implies is the activated melanated individual with the AI. And Will Smith showed you that in I Am Legend. He showed you that in iRobot, or that's what it's called, iRobot, I believe. But I think World War III had to do with the idea with Trump being in office with the police brutality. But I think what they're going to imply and implement because they want to create the illusion that the evolution is the technology when the evolution is really the black melanated body being activated. So World War IV, in my opinion, I believe, is in actuality the activated black woman and man.
Damn.
Against the AI.
You say that the black activated black woman and man and what?
The AI, artificial intelligence.
Okay. Yeah, Alim, go ahead. You want to add on to that? Yeah. No, go ahead.
So World War III would kind of be like a digital war, and then World War IV, which is associated to 5G towers, is now a holographic war, because this is also about getting your holographic signature and potentially reanimating you or bringing you back to life. Craziest thing I saw, I was on Instagram, and X's mother goes on Instagram and says, my son, of course, can't participate at this event, but how would you feel about his hologram? Like, they're already into bringing, and then someone, that's not even the craziest part, but under it, it was like, man, this man would never rest. This man's soul would never rest with this type of technology coming out. And just the fact that people are thinking like that, they understand the extremity of what's really being attacked. Like the soul of what you would call the sun being trapped into a whole new paradigm called a hologram. And then, of course, a robot that's going to be hooked to artificial intelligence. So now your intelligence in competition to an artificial intelligence. I mean, it's a lot that's being placed upon the template of original man on this planet.
Yeah. I encourage the family too, real quick, to watch Social Dilemma, Netflix. It'll give you some insight on how the AI is actually really in play right now. We looking through it right now, the Black Mirror, looking at our cell phones. So that's the AI. And again, it's only going to be, it's only going to advance as time goes on. So
yeah, we cyborgs. That's what I was saying. We all walking around. Everybody's walking around with this device in our pocket, in our hand. That's a cyborg. We saw it coming up. We thought it had to be attached, but they do. You got Bluetooth. You got people with AirPods. You know what I'm saying? We just don't see it that way.
Yeah. So
remember Saved by the Bell. Remember Saved by the Bell, right in the beginning of the thing, he holding that phone. Like that was programmed us in 91.
So the whole aspect of the fourth industrial revolution, which technically would be the fifth because they never include quote unquote slavery as an industrial revolution. Right. But what they're saying about the fourth industrial revolution, which we are now in the throes of which, this entire economy is resetting towards, the fourth industrial revolution will be fueled by the fusion of cybergenetics with biogenetics. You know what I'm saying? However you deduce that to come about, they have operative models saying, oh, you could put smart technology in homes that are now built out of maybe hempcrete material because that's biogenetics, it's living. Or they could just be talking about your ass getting this vaccine, you know what I'm saying? And compromising what it is that we're sitting here speaking about, you know what I mean? In terms of your DNA, in terms of what exactly you are going to be propositioned to be in terms of a receiver, so
yeah.
This is the conversation. That's the culmination of this conversation, ultimately, of what we're speaking about in terms of being aware and of observation in 2020. Do you know what you're looking at? You know what I'm saying? Do you know where this thing is headed? Are you breaking down the metrics of what's being said, and how are you internalizing, compartmentalizing that and putting that where it needs to be? Because that's going to tell whether your melanin is working or not. You feel me?
They say, Alim, did you want to add on to that global warming question or?
Yeah, definitely. Global warming is basically just nothing more than solar activity and its effect on Earth. There's billions of tons of super hot gas that contains charged particles, in which that we call solar flares, super flares, mega flares. And those particles are drawn down to the poles. And when they can when they collide with the atmosphere, it causes the polar lights, what is called aurora borealis, and the southern lights. So we looking at the fact that there's a book called Living with the Stars, in which that was written by Carol Strajev. And he states that 40,000 tons of cosmic dust falls to the planet Earth daily, affecting you and me. And when we get into the solar flares, super flares, mega flares, it go as high as 300,000 tons of stardust energy or cosmic dust energy falls to the Earth. So this is what they're afraid of, because they know that when these energies bombard the planet Earth, we as so-called Earthlings, we absorb our share of those particles. All right. We know that humans or living souls have electromagnetic fields running through their bodies. We call it the aura or the torus or whatever name that we want to refer to it as. But we have these poles too, the North and South Pole, and the same way that these high energy particles and gases from the surface of the sun, they come, and from the cosmos come down into our poles, or hits the Earth and comes up through our feet, through the perineum, up into what we refer to as the prana tube. We have the prana tube running from the top of our head down the spinal column towards the perineum. You know what I'm saying? So we get these energies, and basically what they know is that just one flare that shoots out is basically equivalent to like 160 billion megatons of TNT. You know what I'm saying? So this is what they're afraid of. Or these particles, these CMEs or coronal mass ejections. So our body is the vehicle for ascension. So you feed the body life or living energy, cosmic energy. So this is what is being fed to us. So when we are light starved, we get the symptoms, which is that vitamin D deficiency, which we talked about before. You get seasonal afflicted disorder, SAD. You get neurohormonal transmitter disruption. You get depression, fatigue, irritability, lowered sex drive, poor food absorption. You get lowered immune functioning, even thoughts of suicide. You know what I'm saying? So this is what happens. Now, the opposite happens when we have cleansed our melanin and we absorb these rays properly. The chemical structure won't allow energy to escape because it's the perfect absorber of light in all energy frequencies, like I said earlier. So this is what they're afraid of, because melanin counteracts stress, viruses, bacteria. It improves the quality of sleep and regulates the biological rhythms, like I said earlier. So we're looking at it counteracts stress. So that means that we won't have to be worried about oppression, depression, and suppression. We won't have to worry about viruses and bacteria, viruses. The sun helps us with that. It strengthens us. The whole saga of Superman is based on that scenario. It's based on us. Also I want to talk about the Altered Carbon. You go and look at that on Netflix.
Right, Altered Carbon, right.
Anthony Mackie, he's playing in the new one, or he played in his past new one, the second season, and we're talking about invasion of the body snatchers. We're talking about transhumanism, and that's dominating sci-fi TV right now, and so we looking at that. That's really the whole thing is based on the birth of transhumanism and how they're trying to make us AIs, as said by all the previous guests. But there's also what is called the soul catcher chip, in which that they worked on, and we put this in the article in Frontline Magazine back in the early 2000s, around 2002. But this was already something they've been working on since 1995. 1996. It was at Martise Ham, researcher. Back one of Martise Ham researchers back in 1996. It basically was saying that it was a soul catcher chip, and they would be able to insert this chip right behind the eyes in the brain, and would be able to download all of your life experiences, and they would be able to take that chip out and create a clone or a sleeve, which is the same thing that is being said
in altered carbon.
Carbon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Correct?
Right.
You know, so this was a team, you know what I'm saying, that received this soul catcher chip, and they talked about it. It would tap into your nervous system from the eyes, the ears, the touch, the nose, the tongue, recording the data onto this implanted chip. All right, so this is what they want, and they was trying to do this by guess what year?
What year?
2025. 2025. Yeah. All right. And so this is their bingo to gaining immortality, all right, or reincarnation as they refer to it as. All right. So this is their mentality, you know, and you can read this. I think there's an article, you can read that in Frontline magazine. I can't remember the title, but there's also an article from the British Telecom in which that speaks about it. All right. So to them, this is the end of death. Electronic implants. This is what they're working on. Okay.
I want to ask something really quick, Alim, Rich. So, family, so, you know, what they're really, because what the Dogons prophesied in the age of Aquarius is Sirius coming in conjunction with the planet Earth. And they called it Tabu Tolo, I believe. And what they're really afraid of is because the Dogons understood that Sirius A and Sirius B were black holes. And they understood that, you know, it's going to be a situation where the Earth is going to come in conjunction with Sirius. And when that happens, Sirius A being the supporter for Sirius B, following Sirius B, what's going to happen is because of the gravitational implication of Sirius B is going to pull hydrogen ions off of Sirius A and fling it through the solar system. What this is going to do is stimulate the sun to then articulate that information, deliver it to the Earth. And for every melanated person, what's going to happen is it's going to manipulate the alpha brainwave state, thus stimulating the thalamic pacemaker cells, which is going to then take us on to a whole new dimension. So the Dogons prophesied that, and they called it, I believe, the Tabu Tolo, was when Sirius B is going, because the gravitational force is going to fling hydrogen ions off of Sirius A into the solar system, thus activating the Earth, stimulating the melanated person and taking us on high to a higher frequency. And they're saying, they prophesied that will happen during the age of Aquarius.
So let's talk about, since we're talking about the Dogon, and let's talk about melanin and entheogens, or melanin and drugs. What role, what effect, is there a different, does it hit different when a melanated person does drugs or when a melanated person does shrooms? Is it a different effect? Do we tap into some shit that's way beyond, or can we see different things? Like, talk to me about melanin and entheogens, or melanin and drugs, or you get exactly what I'm saying, family, but go ahead.
Well, the whole term, when you talk about entheogens, the word theos means God, means divinity, means creator. So you're talking about the whole nature of what we're talking about right now with melanin. Melanin is going to be the means in which you're able to make that jump in the first place. The entheogen contains the alkaloids in it, which are what? Let's go back. Melanin is what? Melanin is carbon. Entheogens are based on plant molecules that exist inside of them. What are those plant molecules called? Psilocybin, DMT, mescaline, right? These are alkaloids. What are alkaloids? Benzene rings. all everything. When you talk about an entheogen, the molecule that allows you to go on that trip is carbon.
Okay.
They're carbon. The same benzene ring that I showed you, that it's a 6-pointed star and a 5-pointed star put together. And those two particular rings of carbon, along with some nitrogen, a couple other elements, and then maybe a hydroxyl group, they act as a key. Now, when you have melanin in your skin, you got melanin in your organs, you got your neuromelanin, of course, you're going to have a different experience. If you read any of the books that Alim Bey was talking about before, especially T. Owens Moore, he was with Zamani Press. I think he actually went to Morehouse in Atlanta to right? Yeah. If you read his books, he actually has a list because he did the experiments of the particular drugs and medications, so to speak, that have the affinity to melanin that we have a problem with. So crack, cocaine, heroin, all of these are alkaloids. Heroin, alkaloid. Crack got an alkaloid. Cocaine, all these things are alkaloids. And because we're melanin, and melanin is carbon based, it definitely has a greater affinity for it. Why? The brother was talking about compassion and the word compass inside. So when you have a greater ability to feel, a greater ability to vibe, a greater ability to love, a greater ability to be in tune, and you take something that bridges the gap to make you even more in tune, you're going to have a stronger experience.
Facts.
Because you're already there. Facts. Somebody who's 8 feet don't need the dump.
So KT, this is why maybe people without melanin, they need to do extreme shit like skydiving and
of course, because they get adrenaline rush. See,
right.
Listen, DMT is at its highest amount during birth and death. So when they go on these bungee jumps and they jumping out of planes and they doing the X Games and they putting battery plus and minus on their balls, in their balls and shit. What they're doing is they're inducing a rush through aromatic molecules. Adrenaline is epinephrine, norepinephrine. These are all alkaloids. You see what I'm saying? DMT, so forth and so on. They are going on these particular journeys. They're taking these rushes. They love to encounter death. That's why they'll bust a beer bottle on their head and start screaming and be like, fucking A, try me. You know what I'm saying? Because they want to be on the edge of death. You know what I'm saying?
Adrenochrome, right? They have an obsession with adrenochrome.
That's a whole nother story, because when you look at the melanin molecule, because they call adrenochrome the white rabbit, because when you look at the molecule, it's the 6-sided benzene ring, it's the 5-sided carbon ring, and it has 2 OHs sticking off of the benzene ring. And when you turn it this way, it looks like a rabbit. It got 2 ears, a face, and everything. So they call it the white rabbit. Melanin has the same thing. They pull adrenochrome from the adrenaline glands. You can make melanin from adrenaline.
Exactly.
Because you're talking about dopamine at the end of the day. What's another name for drugs? What do you call it? Dope. You know what I'm saying? When you say something is real tight, that shit dope. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's what we're talking about here.
It's crack. We be like that shit is crack. We be like that shit is crack.
That's why the melanated person is abducted. That's why the melanated person is abducted. This is why they are abducting melanated people. This is what this has to go back to. Exactly.
They're siphoning it out of the body. They're pulling it out. You know what I'm saying? So Alkebulan he kept talking about the word torus, and he was talking about infinite compression. When you hear the word torus, when you hear the word infinite compression, biology is supposed to pop in your head immediately, because as Blue was talking about, they might not be able to understand it on such a macro scale. So they got to go internally. What do they look at to get that understanding of infinite compression, torus, on a biological scale? It's called a red blood cell. It is a double-sided satellite dish. It is a torus. that provides the infinite compression of all waves that transfer throughout your body, 60,000 miles of blood vessels that travels, how many heartbeats you have a minute? How quick does that blood cycle through you? You really think that that's physical matter flowing through them 60,000 miles of blood vessels?
Talk to them, KT.
That shit turns into light. That shit turns into waves.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So dope is what melanin is, because melanin is made from L-dopa. Tyrosine becomes L-dopa. L-dopa is dopamine. Dopamine gets converted into melanin, and then melanin is this chaotic structure. They still don't know the exact structure of melanin because they can't see it. It's nothing. It's all assumed, and you know, they just create something, but it is a chaotic form to it, in which order comes from it. That mound that we talk about in primordial antiquity, where the mound rose from the waters, that's the creation that rises out of melanin.
Yeah, so if you look at the latest pictures, that they have brought forward as of recently of dark matter, and you look at a picture of the mycelium map, and you look at the theoretical pictures of what they think melanin looks like, they're all identical.
Okay, all right.
Right? They're all identical. Okay. So, you know, I have a tendency to correlate mycelium to melanin. You feel me? And just by holding that consciousness.
What is mycelium, Blue? For those who don't know,
mushrooms. Mycelium is the undergirding, the bed from which, you know, the mushrooms spring forward. But the mycelium mat is the largest organism on the planet. It's an underground organism that stretches. I don't have the exact, you know,
the Earth's
figure,
nerves,
what have you, but it's the Earth nerves. So the same way that you can look at our body and look at our nervous system, you know what I'm saying? The planet has this underlying nervous system within it that springs forwards this food of the gods that we are now able to, you know, in, like the brother said, take that inner journey. You know what I'm saying? Go to places that science has not been able to duplicate and go. They can't get on that trip. You feel me? So it all goes back to these entheogens at the end of the day.
That's right. We want to know, how did we make the jump?
Yeah.
How did we make the temples? How did we understand the calendars? How did we create the calendars? How did we do all this shit? Because we're still trying to think of us in our state right now, just sitting, just looking outside and having the thoughts we got. If you haven't taken 5 grams of more in the darkness, you have no idea. You have no idea. And
KT, don't do that to me. 5 grams, don't do that to me, brother. Come on, 5.
Listen, let me tell you. Listen, you know what 5? You know what 5 grams is?
Homie.
Let me tell you, 5 grams is equivalent to a baby cruising. You know, when they stop crawling and they start climbing up on the couch and cruising around, that's 5 grams.
Oh man.
10 grams is when you walk. It's about double, baby.
Cut that out, man.
You want to see the real rich? You want to see the rich with the golden garb on, with the laser eyes?
You want to see Richard? Yeah.
Come on, bro. 10 grams, baby. Yo. And listen to what I'm saying. I'm saying grams right now. I ain't saying ounces. I ain't saying pounds.
That's why
how potent. That's how real that shit is.
That's why KT has on them glasses, because he did 5 grams, y'all. You know I figured it out.
Right before.
Y'all, we talking about Instagram. 5 grams, 10 grams.
Yeah.
That's where it's at. And that's just the shrooms. But come on, you got the DMT with the ayahuasca.
Alim, you want to add on to that conversation, melanin and drugs? And I think Q didn't add it. Alim and Q, do you want to add on to that?
Yeah. So when we're speaking on drugs, you got to kind of just think of the nature of drugs is literally like nature. So we, as melanated individuals, technically would be the template of nature. Therefore, we would constantly be trying to connect back with our nature, aka drugs. So you also got to question the different species that take different type of drugs. that all drugs ain't equal, nor do all species take the same type of drugs. And then question, why would this other species be wanting to take this other type of drug? Well, let's speak of some of these other type of drugs. Meth, crack, I mean, the list goes on. But these are altered drugs now. They are altering the nature of these drugs. So technically, they would be genetically modifying these drugs. And now they're getting into the template of GMO drugs, or getting into the template of genetically modifying drugs. And to the point now where we've ushered in that template as well with this weed that we're ingesting. Now we're not even getting the nature or a drug that is connected to our organic nature. We're getting technically an inorganic nature because it's grown, cloned, et cetera, et cetera. So these are all part of the wars of transhumanism to change the human into another consciousness or being based on its consumption of this life, including the drugs.
Right.
So,
indeed.
Yeah.
That's it. Mushrooms is the one that don't take no altering of anything. That's why it's like at the top of the entheogen list. You walking through the woods, oh snap, there's a trip to the rabbit hole where I'm about to go jump on that real quick. You don't got to boil it. You don't got to put salt on it. You know what I mean? You don't got to split an atom. It's right there for the taking. Every other entheogen, just about, you have to process in some type of way.
Except mushrooms.
Duchess, none of that.
Yeah, I mean, in the age of mushrooms, which is, of course, was the 60s, look of how many things happened during that decade. Man. I mean, that's literally changed the paradigm of existence. So that's how powerful mushrooms can be. And then they bring in crack epidemic to, cut us off these real true. Because you also got to take into consideration that we are quantum, meaning that we can shift our consciousness in multiple places and spaces at once. You do it all the time. You're sitting in the classroom, daydreaming about sitting on your video game, going home playing basketball, but you're sitting in that classroom. So you're literally perceiving two visions at the same time. Right. We've been so dumbed down to see another person's vision, whether that's the video, TV, et cetera, we forget we could do this picture in picture ourselves. So they get us away from our nature, but them drugs allow you to see that other picture. Think about it. You cast yourself when you go to sleep. So who's to say you can't cast yourself while you up, or cast yourself into the other spaces and places of you?
It's called daydreaming. Shoot.
Exactly.
For real. For real. They tried it back in the day, giving shrooms to the soldiers.
Yeah, they did.
Yes, and you know what happened, Rich?
What?
They put down the guns and started to love each other. What you talking about? They was like, "Why the fuck am I fighting right now?"
Shot over each other.
That's why LSD came into the mix.
Hold up. So that's why LSD came into the mix?
Yes, because LSD is a fungus based on ergo. And what they did is they siphoned the alkaloid out of the ergo fungus and they processed it chemically to make LSD, which is a chemical. It is a synthesized entheogen. You ain't gonna find no LSD in nothing. LSD was made. Hoffman made that
in a university.
Mushrooms was not effective. It did the opposite. Woodstock and all that shit had to be shut down. It had
to go.
There was no white supremacy then. They didn't. What are you talking about? They didn't care nothing about none of that. They cared about flowers and butterflies and bees and sex and drugs. That was it.
Shit.
And they was like, we gotta shake it. We gotta create some division. We gotta shut it down. We gotta do this. We gotta do the third. You know what I'm saying? That's what happened though.
Alim, you want to close this question out on the drugs, the melanin and drugs or entheogens?
Yeah, melanin has the ability in order to be a superconductor through the use of utilizing mushrooms. One of the great teachers that's just passed this year,
Kalindi
Ihi, he said you can go as high as 35 grams. And he said you can really see what's going on. He said
35.
No, he was doing 40.
Come
He
on,
was
man.
doing 40.
I'm on one right now, man. Come on,
Yeah.
y'all.
Doing
Come on,
40.
y'all. I'm on one. Come on,
Yeah.
y'all.
Somewhere,
Shit.
son.
Now I'm just telling you what he said now. It's the spirit molecule.
Yeah.
You're trying to see the spirit, then.
Yeah. I hear you. Go ahead, Ali.
Nah, yeah.
Man.
Right.
All right. Listen, before we continue, man, I want to thank everybody. We got over 1,500 people in the chat. It's about 11:13 right now. I want to thank everybody in the chat listening. I want to please make sure y'all donate to this channel. I'm about to get my super chat popping again, but I don't have it popping. YouTube finally approved me again. They banned me for like over a year. I was banned from super chat, but you can always donate to the Cash App. I just put the link in the chat. This is a talk. You're not gonna get. I got a panel of brothers up here that's talking about some amazing things. You're not gonna get this anywhere. Show your appreciation. Don't just say you appreciate the channel. And when you see Blue Pill say, "Yeah, I love Brother Rich," don't just tell him that. Show me that. So when Blue Pill tell me that, I can be like, "Yeah, they support Brother Rich." Yeah. So donate to the Cash App, fam. This is some good conversation. I ain't gonna be shy about it. Make sure you show support to the channel so we can keep things like this going on. And at the end, I will let y'all know all these brothers' information so y'all can support these brothers, because every single one of these brothers got things going on that could be extremely beneficial to your life. All right, we're gonna be on here for about 30 more minutes. So I don't want to keep these brothers too much longer. Thank you for your time so far tonight. Start putting questions in the chat room because I want to get some questions from the people before we get out of here. I'm going to ask one more question, then I'm going to get questions from the family and let them answer it real quick. But before we get to the people, family, we talk so much, gentlemen, about melanin in the sun. What about melanin in the moon? Could you tell me about, because we talked about compassion and the emotions and how Black people could experience it and show these emotions much more. The moon is connected with currency, money, the ocean. We're made of the ocean. We're 80%
emotions.
Yeah, emotions. So talk to me about melanin and the moon, please, family.
Oh yeah, you talking about that blue light, that silver light. Now it has two sides to it. You know what I mean? One, you have what you was talking about in regards to spells and things like that. So what you would use the moon for would be the black magic. Okay, so when you're trying to create money spells and protection spells and invocations and manifestations, then you would use water and the moon, the ocean, cemeteries, things of that nature in order for you to bring about certain things through magical spells. That's what you would use the moon for at nighttime. The other side, positive side of it would be the dream state. So melanin allows you to go in deeper dream states. I speak about it all the time, that the decarboxylation of melatonin, the night hormone, at night through deep breaths produces DMT, because DMT is just melatonin without a carbon dioxide, a CO2 in it. So you were able to go into deeper lucid dreaming states in order to bring certain things on this side. Now, the flip side of the moon energy is lunatic and lunacy, because what ends up happening is it can create chaos in the waters if you don't utilize it right. The full moon is the time where there's the most ambulance trucks out and about. You know, people are bleeding out. You know, you don't want to cut your lawn. You don't want to cut your hair or cut your beard or your mustache during no full moon. It's growing right back. You know what I'm saying? So it's on one side, it's very powerful in regards to magic and invocation. But on the other side, it can create certain levels of insanity if you're not using the energy properly.
Right. Anybody else want to add on to that? Yeah. The melanin in the moon?
I mean, like Alim spoke about, you know, melanin picks up on all spectrums of light, you know what I'm saying? And I often speak about the fact that any farmer, anyone who deals with agriculture knows that, you know, that bioluminescent light that comes off of the moon at night is actually what is signaling that seeding to go through the process of ultimately breaking the plane and being seen in the fullness of the day Hence the fact that, like he said, you know, you do the shadow work at night, you know, under these particular moon cycles, the new moon in particular, when there is no sign of the moon, it's a black moon, or when that first shiver of light comes up, and then it's supposed to manifest itself or be observable by the time the full moon is out, which now gives you the illusion of quote unquote light for things to be seen. Hence the fact that they say that nothing new is born under the sun, because all things that are new are signal for life in triple darkness under moonlight. So the melanin has a key part to play with that, because it is that black matter. It is that black intelligence. You know what I'm saying? It is that aspect of the sentient being that has to feel itself in darkness until it comprehends itself through the process of light. So we you know, every single night we go through the universal principle of what creation is. You know, the fact that yes, darkness preceded the light, but darkness has got such a bad rap that we can't even embrace it, talk about it, celebrate it. You know what I'm saying? Hence the fact that we got all of these identity crises. People are running around identifying themselves with something that they ultimately are scared of. Right? I'm black, I'm blackity black. And then they scared of the dark. That shit don't work. You know what I'm saying? Or they terrified of death. They haven't yet to embrace the scientific term that comes along for them to activate. You know, if black means death in science, okay, there's power in it if you understand what that means. There's power if you set up your life like that's an entire priesthood. You know what I'm saying? And you get into what the glory of what that thing means. But when you have divested yourself of the power that goes with it, then you out here looking crazy like they looking crazy. You know? So there's power. There's a lot of power, you know, under that moon.
Okay.
And especially under the darkness, the cover of night.
Okay.
But but let's think about how when synthesized, chemicalized drugs come in contact, or alcohol, right, come in contact with melanin at night, how that shit ends up looking.
Period.
You know what I'm saying? It's the fact, I was making this observation the other day. If the melanated man, right, according to the narrative that was posited by the Nation of Islam, says that the European was made, right, out of synthesizing the melanin molecule so many times to create this quote unquote divine evil, then shit, the evidence of that is when niggas start smoking crack and that thing that was always in them come to the surface. That's a monstrosity. You like, oh, that's that other aspect of that molecule that I keep hearing about. The perfect movie to show you this shit, to conceptualize it, is Venom. Okay? It's venom, that disorganized carbon, right? That is chaotic. But when it comes into a level of organization, you know what I'm saying? You can utilize it and get busy. Now he got rhythm, right? The melanin was picking up on everything. It was organizing itself to give him.
That's one weakness, ironically enough, is sound.
Hey, so melanin is going to respond in a particular way to light and sound. You feel me?
Okay. Excellent.
I mean, it really ties again back into neg entropy versus entropy, chaos versus order. It's interesting because, you know, if you're growing fruit or, you know, vegetables, you want to take the pigmented seed. You want to plant the black seed in the black soil. And also, you know, the seed, if it's healthy, it generates an electric field that can actually manipulate the angular momentum of the water drop coming in. So that's synonymous with the black body and our trajectory and what we can do as well. Also too, again, like we were talking about before, compression. You know, when you cut yourself, right, or when you have, pain somewhere, pain is actually charge leaving the body. So when you have charge leaving the body, which is entropy, immediately by nature, you want to go through a process of neg entropy, which is organization. And what's the first thing we do when we cut our arm? We apply pressure, or we compress on that area to organize that charge. So again, you know, we're talking about black versus white. We're talking about neg entropy versus entropy, which, you know, we're talking about dark and light, the moon and the sun. So, you know, again, it's just a level of polarity that we got to recognize as a people. And, you know, we benefit off of both ends of the spectrum, you know. So, yeah, that's my discernment on that.
All right. So, I'm with you. I personally believe the moon would kind of interact as like a natural drug. And just in the sense that drugs alter you, but so does the moon. So then it's, in a sense, it's altering the melanin within people. Of course, outside of people, different. And of course, less melanin, we're going to have different interactions with the moon. This is why they create something like melatonin, because people with less melanin have sleeping issues. So they can't really embrace this natural drug. So it alters them, it changes them. Now, we also got to remember, I've learned that there's different types of melanin. One of the melanins you mentioned was called neuromelanin. Well, we know the brain acts completely different at night than it does during the day, just based on observation. People are in automatic mode during the day. They do all the same things. They're driving in cars. They're doing the same conversations. They're eating. They're doing the same thing during the day, where their brain doesn't really create creativity or any of their own visions. Where at nighttime you do. You're going into your own inner visions. And then I think the moon is becoming a gateway or a conduit, in a sense, for this type of behavior in the melanated person. So it becomes an instrument or a tool.
Facts.
Right. Also, what we find is that the moon, we know it goes through its phases. The waxing symbolizes increasing, the waning symbolizes decreasing. So whenever you want to perform any type of ritual, you have to have that in mind as far as the increasing and decreasing of that which that you want. Whether it's a money ritual, a sex ritual, or any type of ritual in which that you're doing, you have to make sure that it's based on that particular cycle. The reason why is because we know that the moon correlates perfectly with the woman's menstrual cycle, every so-called 28 to 29 days, same as with the woman. Well, the man also have a seed germ, as does the woman, in which that is situated within the solar plexus area called the manger, every 28 to 29 days too, in which that correlates to when the moon is in your particular birth month. All right, so my month is Aries. So when the moon is in Aries, that is the time that I would do my internal visions or internal magic or internal powers to generate and raise that seed atom up, the Kundalini, to raise that seed atom up. Matter of fact, the Kundalini with the seed atom correlates to what we refer to as the Kundalini and the Christ seed, or that mustard seed that Jesus spoke about. But we also know that it correlates to what we refer to as the Black Madonna child. So when it raises up, that the Kundalini is supposed to take that seed back up into heaven, and it actually uses what is called the vagus nerve in order to do it. The vagus nerve is one of the 12 pair cranial nerves, in which that, in this case, the vagus nerve is the longest nerve, in which that comes down from out of the brain area, down the side of the neck, down into the abdomen or abdominal brain area. So we actually have 4 brains. We have the cerebellum, the cerebrum, we have the heart, and we have the abdominal brain. All right. These are the so-called brains within us. And so this is why when you are nervous, you don't feel nervousness in your head. You feel it in your belly. You feel it in your stomach region, your gut, as they refer to it as. In fact, we say, oh, you got butterflies.
Butterflies. I was about to say that. You're right.
Right. You got butterflies. So you feel the nervousness. That is talking about actually your solar plexus. That is your manger. That is what it's talking about. Jesus was laid in the manger. All right. That's what that whole story is talking about. That is talking about the seed atom in which that is there, in which that is produced through what is called chrism every 28 to 29 days, in which that it flows from out of the from the pineal gland and pituitary gland, and the pituitary gland symbolizes the lunar or the moon aspect, while the pineal gland symbolizes the sun or solar aspect, and it produces this chemical called chrism, C-H-R-I-S-M, chrism, as in Christ, and it flows down into from the vagus nerve area into the pit of the stomach, into the solar plexus area, in which that we must raise it once again. This is the resurrection of the Christ that they're talking about. So the moon symbolizes the cycle in which that takes place within us. As above, so below, as within, so without.
Powerful, my brother. Wow, powerful.
So just to close that up, Rich.
Yeah.
Melanin's relationship with the moon would be that of time. Because the sun represents the hours of the day, but the moon, when you look at the word month, M-O-N-T-H, you're talking about the moon. The moon, through its phases, without having a calendar, is going to let you know from that new moon to the waxing gibbous, waning, first quarter, last quarter, and all of that. Those are going to tell you that you're going through weeks. Now you hit another month.
Right.
And it's going to tell you the true year of 13 as opposed to it being 12. That's why we have blue moons. But yeah.
Excellent. Excellent, man. Yeah, man, I definitely it's amazing conversation tonight. You know, amazing conversation, family. I've learned so much. I've taken notes. I'm here taking notes. I know y'all
too, man. Y'all cats on fire.
Once again, we're going to get into a few questions. Once again, family, make sure you donate to the channel. We're going to get into, I just posted the link. I'm about to post the link again. But we're going to get into a few questions. First question from King Baphomet. Hell of a name, King Baphomet, right? But King Baphomet wanted to know about CRISPR-9 and ISIS thesis. And he says, are they trying to edit their DNA to get to the quantum side?
Yeah, so what he's talking about is clustered, regularly interspaced palindromic repeats. Clustered,
that's CRISPR.
Regularly interspaced palindromic repeats. When you hear the word palindrome, think of the movie Tenet. You know, it's the fact that you're able to read something backwards and forwards and repeat. So the CRISPR technology is a technology that they actually siphoned from bacteria. It already exists.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And they're using it as it's a GPS and a scissor. That's pretty much all it is. The GPS is able to locate parts of your genetic, your DNA, and then the scissor is there to cut and to edit. You can either add things, transfer things, so forth and so on. So yeah, you got certain people that's going to use CRISPR-9 technology to manipulate genetics, transhumanism, eugenics, so forth and so on. But my thing is this: if they siphoned CRISPR from bacteria, and we keep talking about 76 trillion eukaryotic cells, we're not talking about the microbiome where the bacteria outnumber our cells 10 to 1. Alim was just talking about the brain, the gut brain. Well, the gut contains the microbiome. You telling me out of those trillions upon trillions and quintillions of bacteria, there's no natural indigenous CRISPR-9 you already got in you that has the ability to do what? To have a GPS system to locate, coordinate, like the brother was talking about, compassion with the compass in there, being able to find the location of certain dormant genes and light them things on fire. So the CRISPR-9 technology, I think, defines it on both sides, where you got certain people that are going to be doing it in an artificial sense, and you got certain people that's going to find the innate ability to do it for themselves.
Okay. Anybody else want to touch on that question, or are we good?
Yeah. So the question exactly was about, he was saying, what about the CRISPR?
He just said CRISPR-9 and ISIS thesis. Since, you know, we was talking about the book earlier, are they trying to edit their DNA to get to the quantum side?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Like I said, this whole race of them catching up, right? with the fact that they've been able to, observe the genome, and they have the Blue Brain Project where they're mapping the brain. You know what I'm saying? They just found out about DNA allegedly in the 50s. So they're playing catch up. You know what I'm saying? They're just playing catch up. And this technology is gene editing software, gene correcting software. And yes, like he said, as science, always has the propensity to do, it's going to be utilized for one thing by people that are able to fund the research to go in this particular direction. And then, it will exist for the good of, society and humanity, for them to do some things, but ultimately, yes, this is one of their final devices that they need to play God and to create designer human beings and an altered carbon, all of the shows that people are looking at, this is the technology that introduces, what I'm saying, that phase of things. But like KT was saying, and like I was saying earlier about it being a race and about, the symbiosis now between cybergenetics and biogenetics, when you look at something like the mushroom, the mycelium, that is something that itself has gene corrected itself. That's something that has already went through the process that humanity is still going through. We're still evolving, apparently, or you know what I'm saying? And our ability to now fuse with that particular intelligence gives us the advantage to activate our technology, our internal technology, our ancient technology, without having to go to artificial intelligence, artificial technology. So
now keep in mind, when you say quantum, you're signifying like all sides. You're signifying the beginning, the end, the up, the down, the left, the right. And if we're saying compassion has the word compass in it, then that's signifying we understand direction. Like the word witch, it's so interesting that it's signifying like direction, but it's also like a witch, like evil witch. Is she kind of giving you your direction? Is there a species that was created by a witch that's giving them their direction? Therefore, they can't get it themselves, so they have to cipher it off of another people. And then these other people are kind of giving them this direction, giving them this access to all sides, a quantum realm, a quantum window. Could they potentially be using melanin to open up quantum windows? Food for thought.
Who was the politician who had the brown hands? Who was that?
Man, I can't tell you about politics.
Who was that? What's his name? Anybody know? Who?
You said a politician that had brown hands?
Yeah, who had the brown hands? Yeah. Who was that?
You talking about Adam Clayton?
Nah, I don't think that's him. But they was relegating it to him being ill. But he was saying, no, it wasn't an illness.
You talking about something else. Yeah. But go ahead. I don't, you want to say something?
It's just interesting again, because we're talking about them, fusing, the melanin molecule carbon within the body in order to, speed up or, create longevity for him, so it's interesting that, again, when that politician and I can't, his name escapes me, but he had his hands were brown and it almost looked like melanin. And like I said, you could pull it up, but it's just interesting, because again, they were relegating it to an illness, but he was saying, no, it's not an illness. It's almost like he had a job he had to do. He had to leave the house, but he wasn't supposed to because he in the process of mutating. That's what it looked like. But, it's, again, it's just interesting to see this dynamic happening, because again, the melanin molecule, they understand, it's very dynamic. So when I seen that, I put 2 and 2 together and I said, okay, like, they're actually applying this in their biology. So, yeah,
it gives me program mattered vibes. Like, are they even using melanin to help program matter? We hear this new technology of programmed matter. Could that be the spice that is needed, a part, the formula that gives them this capability?
Yeah. Well, that's the whole science of AI, is to fuse human DNA genes with computer enhanced capabilities in order to be able to be just as smart as human beings are, because computers are not. So what happened is that they actually tried that. This was a little, I guess, run. And what they found is that computers gained the capability of being able to communicate with each other without the human beings knowing. And when it was discovered by the so-called scientists, they had to discontinue the program because the computers was able to code and give each other information without the Albion or scientists knowing what was going on.
They were, in essence, they were able to gene edit themselves to say, let's create our own language to stay one step ahead. Thus, what signaling the evidence of intelligence.
Yep.
And combine that with 3D printing. Now they can print themselves.
Right.
Oh boy.
Let's not forget 11 years ago, James Cameron tried to tell all of us what was about to pop off.
Straight up Avatar. You ain't lying.
That's what the whole movie
Remember, it's a huge difference between Avatar and embodiment.
In this body.
Right.
Like I said, huge difference between Avatar and embodiment. Remember, we are an embodiment of a soul, not an avatar of one. When you are the embodiment, you carry the principles and the wills of something, the ideologies. You are the continuation of that, not just a cast. Some of these people are cast.
So that politician.
Yeah. This made me go back to like 3 years ago when there was a big fuss about having sex with robots on Facebook. If y'all remember that. You know, because they have lifelike robots in which that you can get in order to have sex with. Yeah. This is way beyond. This is beyond the blow up dolls that these jokers use.
Westworld.
It's one of the biggest industries right now. It's booming because of COVID. It's explosive.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that politician.
They got AI in them. Yeah, this is actually I would call them humanoids. You know what I'm saying? Because they have been able to create the same almost flesh-like experience and these particular these computer learning, robotics.
Yeah, machine learning. Machine learning. That's what they call it.
They are now able to, because the thing about the computers is, will they be able to achieve sentience, right? Sentient consciousness is one thing. Will they be able to emulate feeling, right? They got these sex robots now that's getting the bust downs where they are able to emulate compassion and feeling, right? And they are able to release dopamine in the individuals that are renting them because they are exhibiting caring, tactics. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot going on.
Well, remember he said a soul chip.
Alim, you said
they get the soul chip online. Right. Yeah, they get this soul chip online. This chip consists of transistors. I look at a transistor as like a spirit, like a melanated being. You get enough melanated beings to kind of create this chip. Now you can produce this. I mean, even think of the human existence. Are we just one consciousness, or are we kind of a combination of moods? I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm hungry, I'm horny. I'm a combination of all these things. So who's to say I'm not several of these consciousness? But now, like I said, you keep creating these GMO, these genetically modified organisms. You have no choice but eventually turn into that template if you don't see the wall ahead of you. Right. And we're right, and this is the crazy thing. We're all born, we're all alive during this period of literally the transitioning of the human species. Like, we're here, like the stuff we've seen in movies. Like, we are here. Like, what we're going to talk about 10, 15 years from now. My bad. Go ahead, Blue.
Let's be very clear in terms of what we're talking about here in this year of 2020 is crossing over to that place of no return, where the conversation is no longer, up for argument in terms of them saying, this is a war for your body, right? What we were dealing with prior to this, we were talking nationality, we was talking, you know, self-identity and how you self-identify and get yourself out of this particular matrix via paperwork. Now they're like, look, we coming for the body. You know what I'm saying? We want to implement ourselves, you know, on a biological level, on a molecular level. We want to fuse ourselves with you. You know what I'm saying? And you know, I mean, people really have to come to their own conclusions about what the ultimate outcome of that. You know, do you believe that they might have your best interests at hand, or is this a transhumanism agenda coupled with some other things? You know what I mean? So we can talk about the effects of melanin and, you know, the scientific research that encompasses it and everything. But at the end of the day, family, y'all got to understand that your body, your physical vessel, and the consciousness that resides within right now is you know, they finna run down on it.
Yeah,
get out.
You know what I'm saying?
Straight get out. Straight living get out. Just like the movie. Straight get out. A war on your body and to blanket or cover your consciousness. That within the next 10 years, you could be sitting within your body, but not the active consciousness operating it.
Facts.
And real quick. And the politician I was talking about was Mitch McConnell.
Mitch McConnell. Okay.
Oh, Mitch.
Mitch, yeah.
McConnell.
Alim, you was about to say
because Mitch had the black eye, busted lip, and all of that. They put him through the Fight Club.
Yeah, like the headline reads, "Why is Mitch Why is Mitch McConnell's hair blue?" Like, you know, they pigmented. So, you know, like I said, they try to relegate it to him being sick. He said, "No, I'm not sick." You know, so it's just again interesting. Right. I wanted to add real quick too. You know, they got all these quantum computers coming out, and I always say, you know, 5 to 10 years from now, we're gonna look back and say, you know, remember when we used to carry them big bulky things in our pocket? You know, because again, they're trying to duplicate the spiritual reality. We're dealing with individuals who have to see it to believe it. So they can't tap into a spiritual nature. That's why they have to create almost like a religious ideology to personify forces of nature that we can naturally tap into, i.e. Jesus, these physical characters, right?
Right.
So
Zeus, Poseidon,
all of that. You know, we, on the other hand, had a more spiritual nature. So my theory is 5 to 10 years from now, you know, we're going to get on Facebook, but it's going to be all holographic because they want to go to more of a untangible reality. But again, they're trying to duplicate where the planet is heading into a more spiritual bandwidth. But they're going to give you the illusion that, again, the evolution is through the technology. Like body,
they call it the infinite eye.
Right. So they're going to grasp people's attention with this level of technology, with the ability to walk into a room and you interacting with people as if they're really there through holograms. But in actuality, again, we're just entering a space where the black body now has the potential to tap into higher bandwidths of frequency, you know, and interact with forces of nature that are unseen. So, you know, again, dealing with even, you know, what you call a trapping ion quantum computer, you know, you got this idea that they're able to trap, you know, ions with a gold disc. And this gold disc is able to, based on its electromagnetic nature, suspend ions, and they can store bits of information in these ions. You know, basic computers run on binary code 0 or 1s. Quantum computers run on 1s or 0s and 1s simultaneously. So I looked at that and I said, okay,
need gold.
Gold. And I looked at that and I thought about it and I said, well, wait a minute. You know, we got the ability, you know, we got, we always talk about, you know, our hair, our antennas, right? And I relegated that to inductors. And if you look at an inductor, it's a centrifugal shape, a geometry that almost looks like the coil of a hair of one of our curly hair. Right. So I thought about it and I said, now, wait a minute. Trapping ion computers, they can suspend ions, store information within them, and access them instantaneously, 0s and 1s. So I said, okay, well, because we have melanin, you know, we are electrodynamic. We then, because our hair has these inductors or act as inductors or magnetic fields with copper, can also suspend charged particles and be able to tap into these ions instantaneous.
Wow.
I mean, you can't make melanin without copper because tyrosine is turned into melanin by way of tyrosinase. Tyrosinase is an enzyme that contains copper inside. This is what Sabi talked about when he would say the copper and the carbon in the brain. You know, he would compare it to an engine, you know what I'm saying, in regards of electricity being made. At the end of the day, there's no vision without melanin. So whatever color you are on this planet, you first of all, we talking about black holes. What do you think a pupil is? Okay, so we have the iris, which is melanated, surrounding a black hole in which no light can escape unless you do what? You close your eyes. And even then, infrared is still pulled in. That's why you see the color red. And when it hits your retina, you have a layer behind your rods and cones called the retinal pigmented epithelium. It's a black band that sits right behind your retina. This is how you're able to see. This is how you see colors. This is how you see a very good resolution, sharp detail, depth. You know, without that, you're not seeing anything. And even if you're blind, for someone that's blind, you ask them what color they see, and they gonna all tell you they see black. So no matter what you do in order to see, black is the prerequisite. It's the foundation of it all, you know. And melanin is what enables us to see all that we do, whether it's our eyes open during the day or it's when it's closed and we're looking internally when we sleep at night.
And Phil Valentine talked about how, again, our ancestors didn't even have white in the eyes.
Oh, yeah, no sclera.
All black.
All black. They showed that in Prometheus, though.
Exactly. So
Egyptian art show that. They still got they chiseled out a lot of that.
They chisel it out and they paint it in. They like painting it in, but nah, it was it was all black.
All black. So just imagine how much they can actually process and physically see. You know, again, that the Dogon's knew, you know, Sirius existed with the naked eye.
Well, you know, babies are born. When my son was born, his eye was black like a motherfucker. And then eventually, so why are babies born with them black
DMT rush?
Say that
Remember,
again?
first thing that happens when you take shrooms, anybody who took shrooms, what your eyes look like?
They dilate.
Man,
they dilate.
It'd freak you the hell out.
Get fish eyes.
Look in the mirror. That shit look like an owl.
But you swimming. You swimming in the cosmic egg. So of course your eyes go open like a fish. Remember, you operate in your nature, in the memory of your nature. But what kills me is that they're in the process now trying to create melanin. And this is what's hilarious to me, because the kaleidoscope, I think it's somewhere, it's this large hydro kaleidoscope thing where they combine two atoms together. And not only could it produce gold, they're in the process of literally trying to produce melanin, but it costs too much. It costs too much. The cost to produce this gold, this copper into gold, this melanin, this carbon, it costs too much right now. But that's what they're working on as well. And if they can figure out how to produce carbon or produce melanin in a sense, or produce gold, any of these things, that's a game changer for them. Because just like he said, these quantum computers need gold. This is why they had us give all our gold away for the last 10 years. Gold. It's gold everywhere. On the corner, gold, let me get your gold, let me get your gold. Where did the gold go? It went into these quantum computers. And these are the computers they're trying to use to not only get quantum, but to travel this star system, like Star Trek. Them is quantum computers in them machines.
Well, how much are the quantum computers how much melanin is gonna be used in these quantum computers?
Well, again,
could we be in a quantum computer now? Think about that. Think about that. How much melanin is being used to fuel this quantum computer we currently in right now?
The quantum computers that you see, they look big, but they're not really big. The reason why they look so large like that is because they have to control the temperature. They haven't figured out how to deal with stabilizing quantum states in warm and wet climates. That's why they don't believe in quantum biology. But through the leaf and photosynthesis, they was able to finally realize that biology can occur in a wet and warm environment. But when you look at D-Wave computers and all the quantum computers, yeah, they big as hell, but they big as hell because it's a refrigerator. The actual size of the computer is like this big. It's like the size of a coin.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that chip.
Yeah. It's cold plasma. It's cold plasma.
Like I was saying, well, I didn't even get into when I was talking about the whole melanin aspect with the association and reassociation of water. We have to recognize, and I spoke on this before, that there's more than 3 phases. There's 4 phases of water. There's 4 states of matter. We got to get into plasma, and with water, it's called the exclusion zone or the easy zone, super cooled. Our body deals with this in regards to the state of our cells being gelatinous. You don't run, trip, scrape your knee, and spring a leak. You know what I'm saying? You don't cut yourself and all of a sudden start dripping water all over the place. If we 90-something% water, why when we urinate, sweat, and cry is the only time we see it? You know, we should have sprung a leak by now. And that's because our cells are in a gelatinous state. They're able to switch from liquid to a semi-solid state. And that's how things enter and exit out of the cell. It's through the manipulation of this particular phase. So yeah, he's talking about plasma cool. That's a whole nother state that, you know, we don't really we're not really that privy to. That's another reason why they want to cool down the earth, because they have something called UCP1, uncoupled protein 1. Caucasians and people of European descent, we have a certain amount of it because about 24% of us, we done mixed them in the our gene pool. This UCP1 protein allows them non-shivering thermogenesis, meaning that they can create heat and they can create energy from the cold. That's why you see the polar bear club, you see them butt naked, they could jump in the water, Wim Hof can sit in the ice, no problem. And you see us and we be wilding because we tightly coupled haplotypes with our mitochondria, meaning we're supposed to be in tropical environments, long solar hours, where they can be north, they can be in the latitude because of their lack of melanin in their skin. That actually becomes a benefit to them in the cold climates.
And then also too, really fast, you know, their ability to, their lack of to maintain the heat, you know, when they're dealing with these quantum computers, when they're dealing with nuclear fusion, is because they're not studying a science, and what our ancestors also were aware of too, a science called longitudinal interferometry. And that's the ability to maintain the heat with a nuclear reactor. So they'll have these instances where they'll create particles, or they'll try to smash particles and maintain the heat in order to have free energy, but they can't. But again, it's a science that they're missing out called longitudinal interferometry. And I encourage the family to go look into that as well. But yeah, man, I mean, that's what it is.
Now, plasma in its natural state would be hot or warm. Is that correct?
Dude, it could be plasma, could be cool.
Okay, in its natural state though, or to us, the way that we perceive or embracing it, would plasma be warm or cold?
Hot and cold depends on what's happening at the time, whether you losing energy or you gaining energy.
Okay, all right, that's perfect. That's perfect. Because cold plasma, I would think would be similar to like a post plasma, but then that would probably be different. But if you're changing plasma state,
you leaking, you cold, you swelling up, you hot. That's why when you when you bump your knee, you scrape yourself and it swells up, it's so hot, it's inflamed. You know what I'm saying? So it depends on what's happening with like the brother Alkebulan was talking about with charge. It deals with charge. You know what I'm saying? Protons and electrons. Protons is cold, electrons is hot.
Well, you know, I like to use, because sometimes these terms could throw people off. So what I like to do is I like to use terms that the people could automatically relate to. And then when y'all relate to them, they'd be like, that's it. So let me give you an example. since you're talking about melanin and the cold and things of that nature, I remember, and you know how we react to cold. We're like, yo, it's too cold out here. We're not down with that polar bear shit, whatever. But what was always interesting to me, I remember my days of vending, and I was probably about 24, 25 years old, and I'm outside vending on the streets of Brooklyn, New York, and I called Sarnetta one day, and I told Sarnetta, yo, it's cold out. Yo, brother, it's cold out here. You still out there? It's wintertime. I'm like, yo, it's cold. He's like, Rich, you cold because you're not making money. And I'm like, because I'm not making money. Yo, but check it. The longer I've been out there, throughout the years, when you're making money and you in that zone, you're not cold. You could be freezing, but if you get that
charged up,
if you get that flow, that cold shit go
charged
away.
Up.
It could be 5 degrees outside. You ain't cold, brother.
Current. You're exchanging currency. You know what I'm saying? You're talking to somebody who did it, you know, the -20s. I did it in the snowstorms out there and all of that. I could get 2 or 3 sales, and that qualifies. You feel me?
Like a 20-degree jump.
You get that
that's
bump,
like
because that one bump will hold you. You anticipating another bump, so it's gonna hold you at least for an hour and some change. Because you gonna hold that current.
That's facts.
You hold that current. You like, it's coming again. It's coming again.
Yeah.
And you could. It's coming again yourself at least for another 2 hours. You get another one.
and the body.
So
the body
that sounds like alcohol. You know how you could take a shot of alcohol and it warms you up. So it's crazy that it could do the same thing. Money could do the same thing alcohol could do. So what if you was addicted to money and ain't getting money no more? Now you get addicted to alcohol.
Real quick, you think about this. When people walk into rooms, right, and they say they feel a presence, what energy do they feel in the room? Is it hot or is it cold?
Hot.
No, when they say ghost, right?
Spirit, no.
Oh, ghost. Oh, no, that's cold. That's cold.
Yeah, it's cold.
Plasma. You're dealing with a body who hasn't made a
successful see, now you can relate it. A ghost would be cold plasma.
So they're looking for a place in the room to implode through. They're looking for that power spot in the room in order to implode through. The air has to be fractal. Again, and when you're dealing with fractality, you're dealing with infinite compression. So they're looking for a place in the room in order to compress through. And when we're talking about compression, again, we're talking about transverse waves going to a longitudinal superluminal wave beyond the speed of light.
That's crazy, yo. This is a great conversation. Because when a person energy comes through the room, like let's say Kanye West came in here, we'd be like, yo, that nigga done made it hot. They'd be like, nigga, you'd be like, yo, that nigga, he got it hot in here. You know what I'm saying? But when a ghost comes in, they make it cool. Wow, this is such a good conversation.
Well, you call him a star. Think about that. Kanye West, a star.
Yeah. I'm thinking about when I've been in the studios with quote unquote, you know, if you will, stars, just like you said, I'm fucking start sweating. You know what I mean? Like, man, what is it? And Kanye's a constellation. He's Ursa Minor. He is Polaris. So that's a whole different type of energy.
Little bear.
Yeah.
Chicago Bears, Cubs.
I got it.
Teddy bear.
And remember, Chicago got the word chi or chi in it. CHI got the word chi in it.
Chi. Come on now. Wow, man. Listen, man. This is I hate to end it now, family, but it's getting late. I can't hold these gentlemen all night. I hope you all enjoyed today's talk, today's conversation. At this time, the most important time, it's the time of support. I want to allow these gentlemen to leave their contact information so y'all could know how to contact them for more information or to know what kind of products they have available. All right. So I guess we'll let's start with the brother Alim and then we'll work our way down from there.
You can contact me at Dr. Alim El-Bey at gmail.com. Go to my website, dralimelbey.com, or hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, whatever. I'm on all of them. We got a cruise coming up next May. We got plenty of time. It's going to be on the Royal Caribbean. And we're going to be going to Mexico to the pyramids, as well as also to a few other places. So it's about $500 or so, depending on which cabin that you want. So hit me up about that. You hit me at 910-364-9099. And that's good right there.
Indeed. KT, since you have your graphic up, why don't you go next, my brother?
Yeah, is it up? Can you see it?
Yeah, I see it. I see it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just put it up so people could see. The website is soionicbotanicals.com. I got it up so y'all can spell it. Email is info@soionicbotanicals. We have a number as well for any inquiries, or if you got an order and you got any questions, the number is below. The Instagram, my personal IG is KT the Arch Degree. If you look at the top of the flyer, you'll see how to spell KT the Arch Degree. You'll use that for Instagram, YouTube, or for Patreon. Those are the joints right there. And real quick, Rich, before we go to the next one, I do want to make a quick announcement.
KT, before you say that, my brother, did you send out my sea moss? You got the best sea moss out there, the vitamin D3. Did you send it out to me, my brother?
You know it's on the way. Yeah. So
thank you, my brother.
This is the. Am I still on the picture too? Can they see me too?
No, they can't see you, but
okay. Let me stop sharing real quick. This is what you're talking about right now. That's the vitamin D right there, as we were talking about earlier. This is a vegan, plant-based vitamin D3 capsule right here. I still urge you to go outside and get some sun also.
Indeed. Right. And who's next?
Goldwater.com. We've been speaking about gold a lot this evening. All right. It's your monatomic gold. Of course, we have an entire product line: vitamin C, vitamin D, silver, gold, smart moss, sports moss. Goldwater.com. GOLDEWATER. GOLDEWATER. You can holler at me directly at Blue Pillar 44, PILLAR, Blue Pillar 44. That's on the Instagram, bluepillar44@gmail.com. That's how you can send me an email. And Mama Pill, greenleaf-herbs.com. Greenleaf-herbs.com. And shout out to Red Pill. You got a project coming tomorrow.
Red Pill will be live tomorrow.
Yeah,
I'm gonna need you on live too with us if you got time.
I'll be in the building.
Okay.
All right. Peace.
All right. Q, give them your info.
All right, you could check me out at QReaves.com. It's spelled CUE, not like the letter Q, but CUEREAVES. I do what you call regressive therapy. So that's like a subconscious clearing, past life regression, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of subconscious work. One-on-one consultations as well. I know this journey can get overwhelming. So sometimes it doesn't help to have a like-minded person to exchange with. So check me out, QReaves.com, CUEREAVES. Thank you.
Alkebulan?
Alkebulan _44. You can find me there, ALKEBULAN _44. And currently, actually I'll be done with school here. I'm going to school for mechatronic engineering to learn the language of calculus in engineering, because eventually, and I'm in the process now, putting something together relative to, the pyramids. But I kind of want to keep that in a tuck right now, and I'm working with a couple of engineers on my end. So I'll be disclosing that information here soon. So just continue to contact me through Alkebulan _44, and you can reach me there.
Indeed. And with that being said, family, I want to thank you for tuning in. This is Brother Rich, UGR Productions, Black Magic 363. Thank you to all my guests who came out here. Thank you, Alim Bey, for making all this happen. You the elder in this chat tonight, and you did it when we was in the audience watching you on YouTube, watching you. And if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be able to do this, my brother. So big shout out to Alim. He's doing big things in North Carolina, family. He got bookstores and restaurants. But much respect to you. You look the same as you did when I seen you 20 years ago in Hurricane Katrina video, I think, with Phil Valentine.
Can I add to that real quick, Rich? I want to state, I want to definitely give a shout out, love, and appreciation to Alim Bey, because my retreats is based on my experience with him. He's one of the main individuals that inspired that. He invited me out to one of his retreats that he did some years ago. And it was a great experience. And the retreats that I've been doing down in St. Croix that have been extremely successful have a lot to do with, you know, what he did for me and my queen. So I want to say thank you for that, brother.
Hey, man. So Alim, man, you looking at the fruits of your labor right here, my brother. Thank you. You know what I'm saying? But with that being said, family, we getting out of here. Thanks for tuning in. I'm gonna see you tomorrow with Red Pill, Red Out. It's Red Summer. That's the name of it. Red Summer album listening party. It's gonna happen right here on Black Magic 363. Peace, family.